My psycho roommate shows up to my retail store looking for my manager for an interview that she claims I promised that she would have, as she feels entitled to have a job at my store after she got fired from 3 different jobs in just a few months. And now after this stunt, I'm honestly questioning our friendship and whether or not we should still be roommates, because at this point, I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. I'm an 18-year-old female and I've been working at a clothing store in the mall for a few months now. It's my first steady job and it's a perfect fit for me. Great coworkers, a decent manager, and I finally feel like I'm getting my life together after moving out and going to college. I live with my high school friend turned roommate, who we will call Kayla, who's also 18 years old. Kayla's been struggling with jobs ever since we moved in. She's been fired from 3 part-time places in the past few months for being late, as well as slacking off and calling out last minute. She constantly borrows money from me and is always short on rent. I have always given her the benefit of the doubt due to her struggles and pay the portion of the rent she owed every single time. But last week, she found out my work was hiring, and she practically begged me to refer her. I told her very politely that I didn't feel comfortable doing that, and I said something like, well, as much as I want to help you, I would like to keep work and personal life completely separate. And while she did get passive-aggressive, she did drop it. Or at least I thought so. Fast forward, and a few days later, I'm on shift when Kayla shows up to my store dressed extremely inappropriately. We're talking a mini skirt and a showy top. She then tells my manager that she's there for an interview that I set up for her. My manager looks confused and asks me in front of her if this is true, and I'm just standing there like, what? I literally say no, that I never arranged anything, and that I never referred her. Kayla looked shocked and said that I told her to just come in and introduce herself, because apparently that's how they do things here. She tries to play it off, but my manager isn't buying it. She then politely asked her to leave and says they don't accept walk-ins without appointments or referrals. Kayla then storms out and texts me a wall of rage, saying that I embarrassed her, humiliated her on purpose, and I ruined her chance to finally get her life together. But here's the kicker. A few hours later, security tells us that she came back and she was caught sneaking into the back area where employees clock in. She says she forgot her water bottle even though she's never had one. She got escorted out and my manager had to file a report, and Kayla is now banned from the store. Now she's barely speaking to me and has been telling people I sabotaged her future and that I'm a toxic fake friend. One of her friends even DM'd me saying that I could have at least warned her instead of letting her walk into a trap. So seriously, am I at fault here for not getting her the job and supposedly embarrassing her when she showed up anyways? Because right now I'm incredibly embarrassed and I don't know what to do. Holy crap, your friend is insane. Like, this is a different level of crazy that you do not have to deal with. Like, seriously, this is weird. First of all, it's a giant red flag to get fired from 3 part-time places, all in just a few months too, by the way. Because in my opinion, if you want to work, then being on time is a simple thing. Just wake up early and get there. Make the time and plan accordingly, and you can make your job. Like, you can really do it. But her calling out and being late and slacking off, like, do you really think anybody's gonna want that in their workplace? Let alone your roommate? Like, come on, dude. But for me, the icing on the cake is the fact that she tried to ruin your reputation in front of your manager. Like, she really thought she could show up and be like, oh, I'm here for that interview, right? Like, I'm willing to believe that she tried to play on the idea of like, oh, well, you're not gonna get me your job? Then fine, I'm gonna take your job from you. And like, that was her whole plan the entire time. She just wanted to sabotage what you have because she can't have it. Like, that might even be why she was trying to like sneak in the back. Like, do something and then try and have it pinned on you or something like that. So in my opinion, Kayla is not your friend. She is not a good person. And in my opinion, I would not care for a second what her friends think, because this chick is insane and I would be working very hard to find a new roommate, because Kayla sounds like an absolute nightmare to live with. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for not letting my neighbor pay me to charge his Tesla at my outlet? Because right now, I am not sure if I'm the jerk. Here's what's going on. So my partner and I moved into our apartment in March, a residential building with 3 units, including a detached garage apartment behind our house. We noticed that our neighbor who lives in the garage apartment has his Tesla plugged into an outlet by our front door. We suspected this outlet was connected to our electric meter and tested the theory by briefly unplugging the charging cord, and we saw the electric meter come to a halt when it was unplugged. And not wanting to be jerks, we just decided to plug it back in. I texted our landlord with the findings and asked if there was another outlet the neighbor could use. She responded that the neighbor sent her a screenshot of his Tesla app showing an estimate of $19 in charging for the month, and that he was willing to pay $20 a month until there was a long-term solution. The landlord would have an electrician come to confirm findings and establish a long-term solution for his car charging. The neighbor texted me saying this had been brought to his attention and he had no idea he was using our outlet. In fact, he had been using it for 2 years and it was never mentioned to him. Evidently, he's knowingly been charging his car at an outlet he hasn't been paying for 2 years. Now, we looked at the electrical company rates, and based on the consumed wattage shown in his Tesla app, at the current rate plus tax, it would be about $35 a month and not $20. And by the way, we are financially comfortable with a $15 a month loss. I mean, it isn't a lot, but to ask for $35 feels like nickel and diming our neighbor, and it will likely change every month. The actual solution is for him to charge at his own outlet and not use ours. I then texted our neighbor saying that we didn't want any money until the electrician had confirmed that he was charging at our outlet. Our landlord tonight texted us saying that he was going to send about $20 a month to cover his electric usage. My partner then texted both of them and said we don't want any money. We want our neighbor to just not use our outlet. And our neighbor replied that ours was the only outdoor outlet. My partner then replied asking why it has to be an outdoor outlet. And the landlord replied saying that to use an indoor outlet would require a cracked window, which would be energy inefficient. And also, our neighbor has his windows open all day every day, and we live in California. So even if it was hot, there are solutions. He could get flat extension cords, he could put some kind of weather strip in the window crack, etc. Our landlord replied by saying understood, and instructed the neighbor not to plug it into our outlet by our front door any longer. Well, the neighbor has not responded, and I'm feeling like a jerk because it is a very small amount of money, and we know he needs to charge his car. It's a small apartment complex, and we see him every day. But also, this shouldn't be our problem. He should be the one solving his problems and dealing with the energy expense and not us. On the other hand, we could just easily let it go. We just don't think that we should have to be the ones dealing with this at all, and at this point, we seriously don't know what to do. Okay, first of all, this has nothing to do with the money in my opinion. Like seriously, this is the principle of the matter. The fact that the landlord even entertained the idea of like, oh, don't worry, I'll send you $20 a month to cover the cost. It's like, dude, that's not the point. The point is these people are using my electricity, and instead of like making them do their own thing, you're still trying to force it on me. And oh, by the way, it's not the full amount that I'm owed. It's like, dude, what are you doing? Like, that's super annoying. And I don't know about you, but $15 a month would add up very quickly. That's $180 a year that I'm losing because this guy wants to like not give me the full amount. So no, you're definitely not the jerk for telling this guy to buzz off. If he really wants to charge his stupid car, then he should find an outlet that he owns and not try to siphon it off of your grid. My parents treated me like garbage for a majority of my childhood, and every time they did, I decided to get some weird petty revenge, striking back at them in ways that they never expected. Here's what I did. I was 15 at the time, and I'm now 23, and I've been no contact for a long time. My mom and her husband had been awful, had neglected me, and left me out of everything my entire life. They treated me so poorly and like a burden for even existing. I mean, I was the one that everyone's problems got taken out on. The week before this happened, my mom, her husband, and all of my siblings went on a lake trip, and of course, they excluded me and my grandma. A week later, my grandma told me to pack a bag for the day, and this is where we went on a day trip to a lovely beach. We went swimming, we went out to a restaurant, and we went out to a museum. We collected seashells. I mean, it was an amazing day. When I got home, my mom and her husband yelled at me. They said I should have told my grandma to take my sister too. They then grounded me for being selfish and self-absorbed, saying that I left my sister behind, while also saying that my sister was the favorite. They grounded me for a whole month. And you know what? That entire month, I was a menace enacting my petty revenge. Every day that I was grounded, I let the shower handle up and made sure the knob was the cold part of the shower. Well, that morning, my mother's husband yelled, "Who the F left the shower knob on? The cold water sprayed on me." And when I heard him yell this, I just quietly giggled. And trust me, this was just the beginning. Every time I noticed the toilet paper was low, I used the entirety of it and didn't change it out for a new roll. I kept a pack of wet wipes in my bag for this reason. I went around the kitchen and I often unplugged the microwave, the air fryer, etc. And it really made it inconvenient to use the kitchen. I even logged out of all the household computers so that it was a hassle for my mother and her husband to reset the password. I removed the label off of all the canned goods in the kitchen, and that month I took all of the spoons, the knives, and the forks, and I threw them all in the trash. I even had a stash of plastic forks and cutlery in my room that me and my grandmother used. And trust me, they flipped out over the utensils. I logged out of all of the streaming apps on the television, and none of them knew any of the passwords, so they also had to go through a lot of hassle to figure that out. The cherry on top of all of it is that I took all of the garbage bags and I got rid of them. And they were mad they couldn't throw anything away, and they had to go to the store to buy more. And you know what? I won't deny it. I was a very petty child, but my revenge was so satisfying because these people seriously deserved it. Yeah, from what the original poster describes, especially in like the comment section, these people were really bad. They treated them like this all the time, and it was a constant battle. They even admitted that, yeah, they probably should have done worse. So I love the fact that you got some revenge as best you could at the age of 15, because these people sounded like they really really sucked. An entitled Karen literally gets so impatient in a parking lot that she says to a cop they can either get out of her way or she's gonna hit their car. Here's what happened. Okay, so I went out to dinner with my husband, and when we were leaving, we saw that someone had grazed the side of our van while we were dining. It's nothing crazy, but there are some gouged scratches. Very superficial, but it was a hit and run. We asked the restaurant if they could access the footage, and they asked us to call the police. And trust me, this was our next order of business. So we called and had a seat at some picnic tables while we waited about 15 minutes for the officer to come by and take the report. Just as we had sat to wait, the boomers walked out and she was loudly exclaiming, "I'm just saying that if that's how they treat their paying customers." And she's saying this very grumpy, but whatever. The officer arrived and parked behind our van rather than pulling into a parking spot. And at this point, it had been about 20 minutes since they had left the restaurant, but they were still there in their vehicle. As we were finishing up, the boomer comes over and says to the cop, "I don't want to have to do more paperwork when I hit your car. Can you move it so we can go?" And the officer said, "Well, ma'am, I'm on official business. Return to your vehicle and I'll be finished soon. Just turn around and return to your vehicle." She then looked like she was going to say something else, but he just turned on his heels right back to us. She then got a little red, turned around, and stomped back to her car. The entitlement is astounding, honestly impressive, and I'd never dream of saying something like that to an officer ever in my life. Dude, I cannot imagine sitting there and being like, "Oh, if you don't get out of the way, I'm gonna hit your car." By the way, they said that to a cop. Like, dude, are you serious right now? You are that impatient? Like, man, you've got some guts or you're just plain stupid. But I honestly think in this situation, the Karen of the story is just incredibly stupid. Today, I realize that I'm pretty sure I'm being fired from my job, but I'm trying to remain optimistic about my next move, because right now I'm not entirely sure what I'm gonna do next. Here's what's going on. Okay, so I've been serving for around 11 years and working at this restaurant for 2. And before I lament, I just want everyone to know, I understand I 100% brought this upon myself, and this isn't the restaurant's fault, it's all my own. I'm just sharing my grievances here while also being a cautionary tale. I got written up for sleeping through my alarm last week. This is not good, but it's better than getting fired. On Friday, I was super busy and got some checks mixed up, got a customer pissed off because of it, and he pulled my manager aside since he was rightfully upset. He even asked if I was okay, which made it even worse because I wasn't. I've been going through some personal stuff and it's been bleeding into other aspects of my life. However, I understand my personal problems are not the problems of the business, and I realized that I made it their problem, which it shouldn't have been. They told me to take tonight off, but I'm almost positive I know what's happening. So I printed out some resumes to find another job, and I'm finding a therapist tomorrow. The moral of the story is a tale as old as time. Don't let your personal problems affect your professional life. Also, don't try to take a 20-minute power nap an hour before your shift after you've been experiencing insomnia, because trust me, it's not going to work out in your favor. Oh man, I've been there for like so many different phases of my life, so I totally understand that you're going through a rough patch and it's bleeding into work. Like, anyone can understand that, and I'm sorry it's just not working out for you. But you know what? There's always light at the end of the tunnel, and there's always a better opportunity. And hopefully you find that sooner than later. My entitled aunt corners me over not texting her on my birthday, and after listening to her scream and rant at me, I finally snapped and did something that I've never done before, where I stood up for myself in a way that she will truly never forget. Here's how it all went down. Okay, so this just happened, but I need to get some context to all of you. I have an aunt on my mom's side, married to her brother. We'll call her Aunt Karen for the sake of not doxing anybody. Anywho, she has never truly liked me and does a poor job of hiding it, whether it's by making obvious faces and getting silent when I speak, or showing how she's annoyed, or just immediately being very short with me. This makes me tense, and I'm a person with bipolar disorder, as well as PTSD and an anxiety disorder. So truly, it's not a good mix. Anywho, last week was my birthday, and a lot of people sent me birthday messages. I didn't respond to all of them because my sibling was taking me out, trying to make my birthday special, knowing that I don't really have many good ones. So naturally, I'm not going to message every single person unless I see it in the moment. And I'm not one to text back immediately or even see it, and it's not malicious. I'm just bad at texting. Well, this is what puts her on a warpath. She actually came over, ranted to my mom while she was working, and then she went to find me. I was gaming with my friends when I heard my Aunt Karen say, "Come here right now, we need to talk." I then tell my friends to give me a moment, and I head down where she's standing, and she has one arm against the table with her palm pressed in and a hand on her hip staring me down, blocking me in between the base of my stairs and the entry of the kitchen. There was no way to get past, only up. There is a sliding door that separates the entryway from the base of my stairs, and this will be important later on. She then immediately goes off on me. "Okay, I messaged you and your twin on your birthday, but you can't message me back." I responded by saying I was out all day with my siblings. I barely messaged anyone back. I'm sorry. It's at this point that she goes on this huge rant where all her her words are just blurred together to where I just snapped. I say to her, texting you is not my obligation. I don't have to apologize for it actually, and I'm done with this conversation. Well, she immediately is taken aback. I don't think anyone in this family thinks that I have what it takes to do this, and I'm usually the shy, quiet one, but boy oh boy does she get pissed. She then tries to say, no, we are not done. But I just say, nope, we are, see you later, bye. And I then proceed to pull the sliding pocket door in her face and I yell at her, I'm off to have fun with my friends. She then opens the door and starts yelling, you get back here right now. But I just say, nope, no, bye, leave me alone. I know you don't like me anyways, see ya. It's at this time I'm shaking violently, and the anxiety hits me so bad that I almost pass out. But oh my god, it felt so good to tell her off. I know this will start some crap with her family, but I really just don't care. No one in my family really gives a crap about me anyways, and I'm over on the other side cutting off ties. I'm at the point where I'm done caring if my anxiety tries to take me down. I did take some anxiety medication, and my friends helped me calm down and give me a safe space. If she was downstairs listening, I just don't care anymore. I just was not gonna take it. Even my dog hates her, and my dog is the sweetest being in existence, and would probably befriend a robber breaking in over her. She's also an entitled parent as she has a son, and he is super chill and probably will cut her off as well, but she is also a boy mom definitely. She made him compete in all sorts of things, making him the best of the best, and she had Munchausen's by proxy, claiming that he is lactose intolerant when I've seen him down all sorts of dairy no problem, while also making him be homeschooled. So I'm pretty sure half the family will be berating me, but I'm just gonna tune them out. I would rather not care than have uncontrollable panic attacks. And even to this day, I still don't know what came over me, but I'm honestly so glad that I did it. Man, I love this so much, and I'm so proud of the original poster. I've dealt with family members who are absolutely toxic in this way, or even just friends and like acquaintances who treat me like garbage, and it's like, okay, enough is enough. I cannot deal with this. This is so frustrating. So good for you for taking a stand, and to me, this is a great example of standing up for yourself. It's never a bad thing to say, no, you're not gonna talk to me like that, while establishing that this behavior is wrong, it's weird, and I'm not gonna take it any longer. So good for you, because this aunt absolutely deserved to get shut down. My mother-in-law literally gave away all of my belongings. As she rifled through all of my stuff she said we could store at her house, and just gave stuff away as she pleased. And now I feel a level of betrayal that I've never felt in my life, and I'm super frustrated, and at this point I really don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, I want to start off by saying that I'm really not sure how to navigate this situation. Recently, my fiance and I were homeless as we transitioned from selling our house to finding a rental, so we moved in with his mother. While living with his mother, we put all of our stuff into storage. We originally were going to put our stuff into one of her empty rooms, but my boyfriend advised against it, as he said that she and her husband would go through all of our stuff. And you know what? I didn't believe it until it actually happened. So we finally found our own place, and I was not able to fit everything we had into it. We moved 8 hours away, and I asked her if I could store a few items in her empty closet in a room that she never touches. It would literally just be a chair, a few boxes, a pillow, and a small table. Well, my fiance's brother is coming into town and offered to bring my things, and that's when she admitted that she had given my pillow away to their grandmother. Last night, his grandmother calls me, and it's super awkward, basically saying that I can't have it back, even though I spent $50 on it. It was just super awkward. Well, I told her she could just have it in the end, but that's when she said she gave it back evidently in tears, but I was super nice about it, and I just said that she could have it. Well, then his dad was telling me how selfish and evil I am for taking a pillow from an old woman, and I'm just like, well, you guys are super selfish for shopping through my items without asking, and for telling me I could store them there to begin with, especially when I raised concerns with this happening and they ensured multiple times that it wouldn't. Oh, and by the way, they stole a brand new fan from me that I got to use once that cost me $150 that was in the closet, and I couldn't take it back because it had so much dirt and dust on it. But apparently I'm the evil one in the situation, although I literally said she could have it in the end, and I know it has zero value to her. She's always asking to keep our stuff, like a random Nike hoodie for my boyfriend that he was literally wearing. They are super weird like that, and my boyfriend was super kind and gave her the hoodie off his back when she probably just threw it in a closet. And the thing is, he doesn't even have that much because he is such a good guy, and his grandma's the type of person to have a ton of money and just never buy us a present ever. I don't know, I just don't feel entitled to give anyone anything of mine, especially stuff I was excited about, as well as saving up for my new place. I mean, these things were really pricey items. His mom keeps reminding us literally the last 3 times that she's called, oh, she was in such tears when she gave us back the pillow. It makes me question the family I may potentially marry into. Also, get this, the chair I had stored there was a $1,000 vintage chair, and I found it for $75. I mean, this thing is super flimsy and it's made of acrylic. I just said, well, I hope it makes it because it's so fragile. And that's when his mom let let me know that she had been banging it around since it was raining. She even asked to use it for her bathroom, and then today, the day it was time to, give it up to me, she asked me what I planned on doing with it. It's all just super upsetting how they feel entitled to my items, and I totally learned a lesson to never put myself in this situation ever again, because these people are honestly the absolute worst. Yeah, I would be pretty pissed off if someone went after my stuff and either gave it away or sold it or destroyed it. There's no excuse for any of this. This is literally items that you're gonna come and pick up. It's not like you're abandoning it, and you got their permission. I just don't understand why they would go through there and be like, oh, this pillow, we could just give this away. And then when you try to be like, oh, you really want it? Okay, just keep it. It's totally fine. You can have it. They still try to double down and be like, wow, you made grandma cry. You're a terrible person. How dare you? Grandma cried so much when you asked for it back. Completely ignoring the fact that you're like, look, just keep the pillow. I don't care that much. This kind of behavior is super entitled and so toxic. And in that regard, I don't blame you for being like, yeah, I don't know if this family's right for me, because I know for a fact I would be very annoyed by this. So yeah, this really is a lesson learned kind of situation, because your mother-in-law sounds like an awful person, and I would not want to put up with that in the slightest. My boyfriend and I's mutual friends uninvited me from their wedding, stating that I was causing drama and disrespecting people around them, and now I'm stuck with a $500 plane ticket while my boyfriend is still a groomsman in this wedding. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So I was supposed to attend the wedding of my friend and my boyfriend's best friend in a few days. However, I just found out that I've been uninvited from the wedding entirely. The wedding is across the country and the plane tickets for it are over $500 and they're non-refundable. My parents bought the tickets as my Christmas gift since I couldn't afford them, but it was a lot of money even for them. My boyfriend is a groomsman at this wedding to a guy that he's been best friends with, and we have been in a friend group with for years. When my boyfriend asked him what was happening, he said he didn't know they were going to run out of space, so they had to get rid of all of the plus ones, and that I was never actually formally invited, but just as a plus one to the wedding. On top of this, both of the people getting married unadded me on all social media. When my boyfriend asked why, he responded that I had disrespected my boyfriend a lot, disrespected his fiance by talking crap about her to his sister, and then also disrespected his sister. The conversation in which he's referring to was one his sister brought up to me, my boyfriend, and her roommate one day. Everything said was agreed on by everyone in the four-way conversation. Now, when it comes to disrespecting his sister, I have no idea where this is coming from. For context, his sister liked my boyfriend, and repeatedly for months this year, flirted with and tried to get close to him in front of me. She started being a massive cold jerk to me out of nowhere, which I later learned was when he cut her off. As far as disrespecting my boyfriend goes, I am not perfect and I have made mistakes. The thing he is talking about specifically was a TikTok video I posted about a celebrity guy being good looking, even though people like to pretend he's not because of his personality, which is a conversation I had had with my boyfriend previously. Well, I deleted the TikTok and I apologized. However, my boyfriend acted single and flirted with the groom's sister before I could get back to school, as my luggage was lost in another country for a few months at the beginning of the semester. Coming off of a hard, long-distance summer of not much communication and not seeing each other is honestly not that easy, especially when I was out of the country for most of it. Nothing ever happened and he never felt anything for her, but it messed me up for a long time. So the root of the problem is clearly the groom's sister, who is lying because she feels scorned. My boyfriend said that he will say something, but not because he wants to, but because I'm making him do it. And that was pretty much my last straw, as I firmly believe my person would not only stand up for me, but fully take my side and not go to the wedding. Well, I told my boyfriend this, and he said he can't just not go because he's a groomsman, but if we were engaged or married, it would be different. And we've been dating over a year. My best friend, who knows all these people and was also friends with all of them previous to all of this, is out of the country for a year, but I told her what happened. She is now furious and unfollowed all of them, and thinks I even need to break up with my boyfriend. The issue is the tickets for the wedding are also where my boyfriend's family lives, and I was going to stay and visit with them for a few days, and then he has tickets to come visit my family right afterwards. So right now I don't know what to do. I am beyond hurt, I'm crushed, and I feel very defeated. I wanted nothing more than to have a nice holiday with my family, as well as the man I loved, but I don't know what to do anymore, and it has been destroying me. It's important to note that I love my boyfriend and he loves me very much, and aside from his sleep schedule, our relationship is perfect, and he does a lot for me. He is very kind and non-confrontational, so this whole situation is driving him insane. So do I proceed forward and try and enjoy the holidays, even though I'm not going to the wedding? Or do I call everything off and waste all this money? I'm in a tough spot and I'm honestly not sure what to do. Okay, honestly, I need to back back up for a second because you said something that really bothers me. You're telling me he was pretending to be single and was flirting with another girl, and you're somehow calling him a good partner? Like, what's going on right now? That is not a good partner. That sounds like someone trying to go behind your back, and that is absolutely not okay. So here's the thing. If you want to go on this trip anyways and see how things can go, you certainly can do that. But honestly, I don't think you should force yourself if you are uncomfortable with it. Because what you're describing sounds like an absolute nightmare, and I would not want to be in this situation in the slightest. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for moving out? All because my mom is charging me rent after high school. Because right now I feel so frustrated and I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so I'm 17 years old, and as an important note in case this gets confusing, my parents are divorced with my mom having full custody. A while ago, my mom and I got into a huge argument because my savings that only she had access to and had about $2,300 in it that I had earned were used instead for my mom's bills and other payments that she owed. Now, I was rightfully mad at her, but unfortunately, I couldn't do anything about it. And the only reason I found out was because I asked to take money out for Christmas shopping, and she acted suspicious. Now, yesterday or so, we were in the car traveling to my dad's for the weekend, and she then tells me, when your stepdad and I finish paying off the money I owe you, you're either going to need to go to school or pay bills, like the phone bill and stuff like that. And then she explained how much I would need to either help around the house or get a second job. Now, I would need a second job because right now I only make about $130 bi-weekly. Again, this is a great premise. However, I don't have much in that house to begin with, besides maybe some personal items. I don't feel like I belong half the time as I look so much like my dad, and I am the only person in my mom's house who doesn't have their last name, so I really feel kind of odd. So I talked to my dad, we cried, and came up with a plan. I graduate early, and legally I'm allowed to choose where I live since I was about 14 years old. I plan on collecting my information needed to prove that I exist, and I'm starting to find boxes for all my clothing and such over winter break. And then I'm gonna break the news to my mom after break, so she will still have me for about 2 weeks or so. Now this could go one of two ways. For starters, my mom might try to fight me on leaving, and I might have to stay until I'm 18 years old, in which case I will let her know that if she fights me, I'm going no contact. The second option is she lets me go, helps me move out, and I'm willing to contact her and possibly visit. But I'm honestly so tired of feeling like the cash cow of the family. But she is my mom. I don't want to sue her or make her feel like I don't love her anymore, but I feel like I'm being taken advantage of and like she's not listening to me. So am I the jerk for wanting to move out? Because right now I don't know what to do. Okay, honestly, I don't blame you for moving out, but if you do move out, you need to set up your own savings account. You can't put any more money in that account because clearly your mom can't be trusted. Like she literally stole $2,300 that you earned and used it all on her stuff. Like that really is not fair. So no, you're not the jerk for wanting to move out because if I was in your shoes, I would do the exact same thing. My entitled mom is mad that me and my husband don't want to gamble every family game night, as she claims that we're just being stingy and that we could afford it if we really wanted to. And I'm honestly so done with her that I now just don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so I usually go to my parents' house every Sunday for family game night, but over the past year, family game night has turned into an expensive activity as the game we play involves betting money. And lately, my husband and I haven't been doing well at the game at all. Altogether, we lost about $200, and that was when we told them enough was enough. We were done losing money to them. They were free to play without us if they wanted, and we would just watch. But my mom started arguing with me, making snide comments how it wasn't that much money, and we were just being cheap, sore losers. My husband and I are not regular gamblers, and even though technically we could afford it, we are trying to save for a down payment on a house, and losing $75 every week was making us feel stressed out. And with Christmas coming up, it just made us feel even worse. I eventually had to talk to my dad to try and talk some sense into my mom since she wasn't listening to me. And eventually, my dad did talk her into using smaller change, like dimes and quarters instead of dollars, which is a less painful loss of money as it were. We agreed to one more game, so long as we could just use small change only. My mom still pouted about not playing with dollars, so my dad gave us $50 so we could play with that and we didn't have to pay them back. So we played a game and it was kind of better, but my mom was still being huffy about playing with small change. But when we did play with the dollars because of the money my dad gave us, my mom would shake her head, saying it was wrong to bet the money just given to us. But seriously, I don't know what's wrong with her. I don't know how she can't understand that not everyone is comfortable gambling and losing money every week. After that, we told them outright we're done playing for money altogether, and if they wanted wanted us to play with them, then they need to pick a different game. Everyone eventually agreed to play Monopoly, but Mommy Dearest announced that she was doing it out of some big favor to us. I mean, she is so condescending, and it really seems like family game night is becoming one massive headache, no matter how we try and go about doing it. Wow, I'm surprised you're still going over there, I'm not gonna lie. First of all, gambling money with family is not a good idea. Like, that really sounds like a quick way to find resentment in the family, especially when you have a mom like yours. Like, the only reason she wants you to gamble is because she's getting money out of you. Like, that's all this is. She doesn't care about anything except for your money. So personally, if I was in your shoes, I would stop going over there until they figure their lives out, because the way she's treating you is incredibly unfair. Am I the jerk for not appreciating my brother's girlfriend living with us, all because she acts like she's 14 years old and literally is trashing the place all the time? Because right now, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. I'm an 18-year-old male, and I live with my mother, my brother who's 23 years old, and his 18-year-old girlfriend, and the living situation is rather cluttered. Ever since my brother's girlfriend moved in, things have been very stressful to me because I was the only one who would clean the house since my mother and brother worked so much they just didn't have any time. And now with an extra person in the house, the mess has been getting worse and worse. His girlfriend straight up refuses to help out or even clean and just stays in his room and then brings down a mass amount of dishes that she's been keeping in the bedroom. She doesn't even rinse them off or anything like that. They're always caked in ketchup and hot sauce. And then on top of her not doing the smallest thing to make my life simpler, she also refuses to do her own laundry and expects me to bring the laundry up to the room when it's done. She also doesn't have a job, and I've recently started working, and every day after work I come home to a disgusting house that I have to clean. And the worst part is that my room is right next to theirs. So when they're spending quality time together, I can hear everything, if you know what I mean. I've talked to my mother about all of this, and she doesn't see an issue with it at all and just stands up for them. His girlfriend also recently brought her male cat, who wasn't neutered, and would also go to the bathroom all over their floor to the point where the smell was seeping out into my room. And male cat urine is one of the worst smells I've ever smelled. It's now getting to the point where I feel like flipping out on her, especially because, like, how can you move into someone else's lives and do something like this? Wouldn't you want to clean up after yourself? Wouldn't you want them to like you? She doesn't even interact with me and acts weird and scared when I do. Like, she knows what she's doing is kind of wrong. She acts like more of a child than I do, and it makes me feel kind of sick to my stomach that there is someone who still needs proper raising living with us. I mean, what made this dude want to be with an 18-year-old who acts like she's 14? I mean, it is so beyond me. She doesn't even cook. She just eats our air fryer food all day. So seriously, am I the jerk for wanting to tell this girl to start helping out? I feel like it shouldn't be my place to say something, but at the same time, it makes me so mad that she's allowed to do that, because if I did that, then I would get yelled at and criticized. What should I do? Okay, first off, you're not the jerk for wanting to say something, because yes, you absolutely have every right to say something. You live there. This is your living space as well. So for her to trash this place and also expect you to, like, clean up after her, like, that is crazy, and there is no good excuse for that. And for me, the grossest part is that she literally is letting a cat urinate all over the house, because that would be the straw that broke my back almost immediately. Like, how on earth is your mom and your brother okay with this? So yes, in my opinion, you absolutely should say something, because the way your brother's girlfriend is acting is absolutely unacceptable. Am I the jerk for not giving my sister-in-law the money I made after I sold a cell phone that she gifted me over a year ago for free? Here's what happened. Okay, so last year I broke my cell phone. My sister-in-law had just got a new cell phone because hers was not charging. She said I could get it for free and I would only have to fix it and buy a charger. So I did, and I've been using it ever since then. I just bought a new phone purely because my stepdad was selling it, and I'm kind of impulsive. My friend's mom informed me that she was interested in buying my old phone for what I feel is a pretty fair price, and we already set a date for me to give her the phone so she can pay me. I then sent a message to my sister-in-law saying that I was going to sell the phone, and as soon as I got the money, I would be sending her half of it. My sister-in-law then thanked me, and that was that. Well, my brother, her husband, just sent me a pretty angry text message saying that I was stealing from them, and that if I was going to sell a phone that I got for free, I should give all the money to the person that gifted me it. And now my family is all arguing about it, though some of them think that my offer of half was good, but apparently a lot of them think that I'm the jerk for, one, selling a phone that I got as a gift, and secondly, not giving them all of the money. My mom, my other siblings, and stepdad agree with me, but my dad feels like I should give them the money to keep the peace because they are struggling parents, and I'm just a 19-year-old kid who doesn't need it. I'm afraid I just made Christmas incredibly awkward, but honestly, I would like the money, and since my brother was rude about it, I don't feel like giving him any of it. So am I the jerk in in this situation? What should I do? Okay, no, you are not the jerk. This is so dumb. These people gave up on this cell phone and said, here you go, you can have this for free. Free literally means, guess what? There's no strings attached. Like, I don't even know why you called your sister-in-law up to be like, yeah, I'm selling the phone. Because if that were me, I would just sell the phone and be like, okay, we're done with this. So I kind of think that was a big mistake, but that's neither here nor there. The fact that anyone's trying to be like, wow, you need to give us all the money, you know, for that phone that we gave up on and said you need to fix it. And it's like, oh, okay, I see how it is. They only want money for this the second you fix it and try to sell it. Suddenly there's value for this phone and it's not something free that you're gonna give out. Like, that is so stupid, especially because you bought a charger and you fixed it. And they gave it to you a year ago. If after 3 months of owning something that I was given for free, congratulations, this is now my property and I can do with it as I please. And no one's gonna tell me otherwise. So no, you're definitely not the jerk, because the way your sister-in-law and your brother are acting, in my opinion, is super dumb. Would I be the jerk if I left my boyfriend to figure out that today is my birthday? Because right now, I'm not sure that he will catch on that today is a big day for me, and at this point, I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So today is my birthday, and I'm visiting family for half of December and a week or two into January. My boyfriend lives a few hours away from my hometown, and I'm traveling with my family to a different state to see extended family for the holidays. For context, when I'm with my boyfriend, I end up having to tell him or push him to take care of himself, and he does. Not anything extreme like not showering for days, but he will just get hungry and angry unless I tell him it's time for a meal or I start preparing something. He cooks as well when I mention that I'm hungry, as some kind of hint that he should eat as well. I also have to tell him to go to bed or he will stay up way past midnight, and he wakes up at about 7 o'clock every morning for work. Since I've left to visit family, he's taking care of himself a lot less, forgetting to eat all day and going to bed stupid late. The past few days he stayed up until about 4 or 5 in the morning, which is fine since it is the weekend, but he keeps texting me about how tired he is. This morning I got a text from a friend telling me happy birthday, and a text from my boyfriend at around noon saying that he had just woken up and was telling me how late he had stayed up gaming again. And I even got a text from my dentist office telling me happy birthday before my boyfriend did. It's not that my birthday is especially important to me or anything like that, but I guess it's just nice to hear, especially since we've been together for over a year now. So do I say to him, hey, it's my birthday, or do I let him try and remember? I feel like it would be rude if I didn't mention it at all, since we are big on communication, but I'm also frustrated since all he's done today is sleep. What should I do? Okay, honestly, it sounds like everybody sucks here, because for starters, you're not his girlfriend. You literally are his mother, and that is all that's happening right now. For reference, this guy is 26 years old, and you're really telling me that this guy needs someone to tell him when to eat his meals, as well as when he needs to go to bed? Like, either this guy is a massive man-child, or he really is just allowing you to do this. And the fact that you're enabling that is really sketchy in my opinion. But also, let's be honest here. If he quite literally cannot take care of himself, even at a base level, how on earth do you expect him to know that it's even your birthday in the first place? And it's like, okay, you've only been dating for about a year, but at that point, he really should have that down to some degree. So seriously, I think everybody in this story is not doing great, and I think you really need to consider exactly what you want out of this relationship, because what you've described, in my opinion, sounds like a nightmare to deal with. My entitled friend is one of those arrogant rich people who like to pretend that they had it hard and they had to work hard to get what they have, but in reality, they just come from a rich family that quite literally gave them everything. Here's what happened. Okay, so an acquaintance of mine had the following life. They were born into an upper middle class family, and the father was making enough to support a family and finance a big house and property in a very good part of town on his own. He had good, loving parents, and as a kid, he got encouraged, supported, and helped. He did not have to work while studying, besides an occasional gig, because he was financed by parents. Later on, he met a woman that had a well-paying job, so he moved out when he was like 23 years old. She financed their apartment and him until he finished studying when he was about 28 or 29. After that, her parents gifted them a property, and both families supported them financially while they were building their house. And at 32, they now have a house, their first kid, and are pretty much set for life. It's like the perfect fairy tale. If you don't have genuinely rich parents that are millionaires or above, it can't get any better or easier than that. Basically, this guy rolled a dice and got a 6 several times in a row. Yet the guy is entitled and arrogant as all get out. He keeps rambling about how he made smart decisions and that he works very hard and he deserves everything, and people that have nothing are 100% to blame. And seriously, how can someone be this deluded? Compared to most others, he had massive amounts of help, and most of the things that helped him were out of his control and pure luck. He could have been born into a poor family. He could have had horrible, awful parents. sense. He could have been required to work to finance his studies from the age of 18. If it took him until 28 or 29 to finish his degree, with just the occasional gig once a month or so, then he would have needed until 35 if he had to work a 15 to 20 hour part-time job to finance his studies. He could have met a regular girlfriend that did not have the means to finance 2 people. He also could have met a girlfriend with a family that had no property to gift them, and he could have received no financial help from his or her family. I think that most regular people would be doing pretty well if they just managed to be born into a good family and enter a relationship with a man or woman from a wealthy family and get gifted a property that saves them like $50,000 to $100,000 and then get like another $40,000 to $50,000 in financial help from their families. These supposed smart decisions would be a massive boost for everyone, even if they were working a minimum wage job. And the worst part about it is that there are people who had it 100 times or even 1,000 times easier, and pretty much all of them babble about bootstraps and smart decisions, and they're all incredibly arrogant. I think that Bezos would be where he is if his parents didn't borrow him like $500,000. He got a free ticket to start his business idea, and others can't even participate. Or even Bill Gates that had ultra wealthy parents and a mother with connections to the IBM board, and he had access to one of like 5 public PCs in the entire country at the time, as well as the time to experiment because he didn't have to work a part-time job. Yet these people are so arrogant and condescending. They can't be that stupid and deluded to not see all of the luck and advantages they had, right? If you start the Monopoly game with you having $5,000 and your opponent having $1,000, you have such an advantage that only a fool could lose. If you start the game with $10,000 or $100,000 or more, not even an idiot can lose anymore. This amount of resources offsets all skill, smartness, or luck of everyone competing against you. It's just sad because it means money enables stupid, incompetent idiots to overcome the skill, talent, and intelligence of much better people. But to think that you are better or smarter just because you had more resources at your disposal from the beginning that literally made your life easier, that in my opinion is the ultimate insult. Oh man, I relate with this so much because I've ran into people like the person in this story. They sit there and they say, oh yeah, I worked so hard in life. Meanwhile, their parents literally finance every aspect of their life. They had all of the advantages placed in front of them, and honestly, compared to other people, they didn't really work that hard. So yes, I agree with pretty much everything in this post, and I honestly can't stand people who act so arrogant about the advantages they have in life. My fiance's aunt is the worst person on planet Earth, as she ruined my proposal to her niece. Because after I denied her access to my bank account for her to judge if I was worthy of getting married to her niece, she decided to ruin the surprise by telling my now fiance that I was planning on proposing. And I'm honestly still frustrated by this entire ordeal that I now seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, for a bit of backstory, my fiance's dad and aunt are immigrants who moved here to the United States during the 80s. Being immigrants back then in pursuit of the American dream wasn't easy, so I do give them props for leaving their families in their home country for a better life. Eventually, they were able to move all their siblings over, and they all live within a 5-minute drive of each other in the same town. They worked hard to be successful, but it developed this nasty attitude of pride and entitlement. Then, coming from a culture where respect is simply given to a person, all because they're an elder, honestly just didn't help either. Her dad doesn't like me for some reason, and hasn't made any effort to reciprocate any efforts of getting to know each other. And it's crazy to me because he's known as the nice uncle in the family, and he's just cold and distant when it comes to me. The aunt is the matriarch of the family, whose power over the family is rooted in her giving money to them. That's all she's about, is money. It's also how she gauges your worth by the amount of money that you have. Anyways, my fiance and I just got engaged this year after dating for 10 years. We would have sooner, but certain conditions and life events prolonged it. One of them being my fiance losing her mom back in 2020. Well, when it came time to ask my soon-to-be fiance if she would marry me, I was told by her cousins that I would need to ask her dad for permission and her aunt as a stand-in since her mom had passed away, which I understood, and I had no problems keeping up with this tradition since we all come from the same culture. So, without my then girlfriend's knowledge, I visited and asked her dad first, and trust me, I was prepared for an argument. I asked if I could speak to him and just told him what I was planning on doing and that we could sit down and chat. However, to my surprise, he just said that if you think you're ready, then go ahead. And while I thought he'd have more of a reaction to having his only daughter's significant other ask for her hand in marriage, it honestly went over smoother than expected, which really was great, and I prepped myself for the next task. I then visited the aunt at her home a couple of days later. I met up with her and I did the same spiel, and her and I sat down for what I thought was going to be a chat. Instead, it was a 2.5 hour long session of her berating and belittling me. She called me an outsider to her family, fiancé who is only trying to leech off of them. According to her, I bring nothing of value to the table, and that my fiancé was stupid for even being with me. She even said that I was in a worthless career. And for reference, I'm an education specialist, and I've been working on my last year of completing my master's degree. She then demanded that I tell her if my fiancé and I have spent quality time together, if you know what I mean. And when she asked that, I replied by saying that it isn't my position to divulge that information, but that she could be rest assured that I would never pressure my fiancé into anything she's not comfortable with. Well, at this point, she said to me, "Wow, 10 years you've been together and you haven't even touched her." And at this point, she said an incredibly offensive insult towards me that basically questioned in the worst way possible if I even liked women in the first place. After she said this, she even called in one of the other aunties that was in the house at the time that was visiting and said to her, "Come in here, this guy's telling me he's been with my niece for 10 years and he's never even laid a finger on her." And then she kept saying that insult over and over again, while also shouting out, "Don't lie to me, I know how men think." She then proceeded to demand I reveal to her and grant her access to my bank account and all of my assets so she can see and tell if I'm worthy to her. She then decided to badmouth my fiancé and her late mother. She claimed that the mom kept my fiancé distant from the family and that she must have been mentally disabled, thinking that was good for my fiancé growing up, and that because of her mother's action, my fiancé has picked up unsavory habits, like associating with people like me. Now, at this point, I was seething. It's one thing to berate and belittle me, but to talk smack about my fiancé and her mother, who was the only person from my fiancé's immediate family to accept me, as well as get to know me, I honestly just couldn't stand it. I held my tongue so as not to cause any unnecessary drama and cause the aunt to call my fiancé to complain about my visit and ruin the surprise. But I guess I didn't do a good enough job hiding my emotions because the aunt called me out, saying, "Why do your eyes look like that? They look like they've got bad intentions behind them. This is why you aren't good for our family." At this point, I'd had enough. I ended the conversation telling her that I had to go. But before I left, I told her, "Even if you're not happy with it, I'm still going to ask your niece and it's ultimately her decision. Please just let her have the surprise of me asking her." And she then replies by saying, "I hope she makes the smart decision and says no. Goodbye." Fast forward to the day before the proposal, and I get a text message from one of my fiance's cousins saying that the aunt had thrown me under the bus. She called my fiance to complain about another family member, which then just devolved into her complaining about me and revealing that I had visited her to ask for her permission. And at this point, I was livid. Months of planning completely ruined right then and there. I even arranged for some of her family from her mom's side to fly in from out of state so that they could be there to witness us getting engaged. I mean, they had literally just taken off to travel to us. I couldn't postpone the proposal, so I decided to go ahead and do it anyways. She knew that it was happening, but at least she didn't know when it was going to happen. I arranged to have a photo shoot done for our 10-year anniversary of dating at a local flower shop and a nature garden, and it all went according to plan. We had loved ones hide out of sight until the big moment, and she said yes. She didn't expect the out-of-state family to be there, so at least that was some kind of surprise for her. We all went to celebrate afterwards, except for her dad's side of the family. It broke my heart when my fiance called her dad and asked him to come to the restaurant with us and celebrate, but he said that he couldn't because he had to go buy shampoo from Costco for one of the aunties. But even though he didn't show up, we still had a great time. The next day, my now fiance and I went over to visit the aunt. The dad was there but didn't bother to say anything to us. The aunt took one look at my fiance's engagement ring and then said out loud, making sure that I could hear, "Wow, that's all he could afford, you poor little thing." But my saint of a fiance just said that it's perfect for her and she smiled at me. And right then, all of my anger disappeared. So fast forward and we're back for the holidays. And the dad side of the family is a complete nightmare. I've been a bit under the weather, so I used that as an excuse to avoid going over to the aunt's house for the holidays. And their family is feuding right now with another faction of the family one of the siblings married into. I heard the aunt complained about how the other faction had the audacity to celebrate the holidays as if she somehow owned the holidays or something like that. Now, of course, she was also complaining about me and spouting again about how I need to grant her access to my bank accounts and show her proof of all of my assets because according to her, it's the only way that I can show that I'm acceptable. Meanwhile, one of her nephews got into some heavy substances this year and got all the way to the point of getting violent and then getting arrested. They even had to ask the aunt to bail out the nephew, but apparently I'm much more of a Blythe on the family for simply existing and being in love with my fiance. But thankfully, my fiance does not have the same values of her family, and I definitely would not choose to deal with her family if she wasn't worth all of this trouble. Wow, the aunt in this story is crazy. She really thought that it would be okay to be like, "Oh yeah, well you need to give me your bank account and all of your asset said information because that's the only way for me to see if you're acceptable or not. Not to mention the horrifying insult she was throwing the original poster's way. Like, all of this is so crazy, it's not even funny. And the best part about it is that she clearly still has problems with pretty much anybody trying to get involved with a family. Like, this is some serious main character energy, it's not even funny. So good for you for stepping up and being like, no, I'm gonna ask her to marry me anyways, and you're just gonna have to deal with it. And sure, she completely ruined the surprise and basically took away from your big day, but it really sounds like your future wife is a great person, and there's nothing that this aunt can do to stop you guys from getting married. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Would I be the jerk if I moved out and basically forced my friend to move out after he and his girlfriend decided to be loud all the time and treat me like garbage? Because right now, I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So I've been roommates with my close friend for about 3 months now. We have been very close friends before, but living together brought some conflicts and things are now kinda shaky between us. Well, last month, he got a girlfriend. She has been coming over for 3 to 4 nights a week since then, and they've been staying up until 5 in the morning mostly and make all kinds of noise. I'm not a heavy sleeper and I do have a lot of trouble sleeping, and it's now become like living with 3 people in the flat, which is not ideal for me. When I brought this to his attention, he basically said I'm jealous of them and their happiness. Now, I'm not gonna lie, I have not been in a good space recently, and I'm suffering from loneliness. I can also say seeing my friend and his girlfriend kind of brings out my insecurities and brings down my mood. A few nights ago, I brought this to the attention of my friend, and I basically said I'm not in a good mental space right now, and being around them makes me feel miserable. I mentioned that I'm thinking of moving out, and he may need to find another flatmate. Well, the thing is, we are staying in this flat thanks to a guarantor I found. Without me, he will need to find another guarantor, and that is not possible for him, meaning that he will basically have to move. We have planned for a 1-year lease and signed for a 6 months term, which will renew in March. And this is the first time I told him I'm planning to leave. Well, he lashed out at me for acting out of jealousy and breaking the contact that we made. He said he helps me so much, and he really did, but I have been nothing but a problem for him. I told him circumstances changed since we moved in, and I'm not in a good mental space right now. Now, he and his girlfriend are giving me the cold shoulder and being louder than ever. I don't want to let down my friend, all because of my mental problems and insecurities and certain things about myself, but I also do not think I can take this for 8 more months. So am I the jerk if I move and basically force my friend to move as well? Because right now, I don't know what to do. Oh man, if I had a roommate who was making this much noise, and they were trying to be like, oh yeah, you're just jealous of me and my girlfriend. Wow, you're so jealous, look at you. I would be like, no, I'm not jealous, but you guys are making way too much noise. Also, she's not on the lease, so she can't stay here all the time. Because if she is, then she's gonna have to start paying some rent. Like, this is so unfair for you, it's not even funny. I totally understand that you feel jealous and you have some kind of like thing going on right now where you're like having trouble mentally, but for me, it all comes down to the fact that they're being way too loud. This is not fair for you, you don't deserve this, and honestly, the fact that they don't understand, in my opinion, is incredibly toxic. So no, you would not be the jerk if you moved out. These people clearly don't respect you, and I seriously don't think that you deserve to be treated this way in the slightest. An entitled customer demands that I give them a refund exactly how they want it, with her essentially demanding that I hack the system in order to meet her weird demands. Here's what happened. Over a decade ago now, I worked the customer service desk for a large chain department store. We primarily handled returns, about 95% of which were run-of-the-mill transactions, 4% were unusual, and 1% were absolutely wild. And this situation was part of the 1%. But first, a brief description of the return process. To make a return, I could use the receipt itself or look up the transaction by scanning the purchasing credit card, both a store card or a major credit card, such as a Visa or a MasterCard. The refund would then be issued back to the original card, or upon request, the customer would get a merchandise credit. Cash was only an option if used as original tender or to refund a debit card purchase. In the event of a customer not having their receipt or purchasing card available, a merchandise credit was automatically issued, and this would be at the lowest refund amount possible. Use of a receipt or purchasing card ensured a refund of the full price paid. Now, what this particular customer wanted to return is of no importance, and even to this day, I've completely forgotten about. However, what I will never forget is how she wanted me to complete her return. You see, she made the purchase some time ago on credit card A, which is blatantly shown on her receipt. She had then closed credit card A and opened up a new card that we will call credit card B. Now, this customer wanted me to scan her receipt, ensuring her the full refund amount, but instead of giving her refund to credit card A, which by the way got canceled, she wants me to apply the credit to credit card B. Apparently, she believed that I could just type the new card information into my magical computer and that she'd be on her merry way, easy peasy lemon squeezy. She could not understand why that wasn't an option, and she did not want the only alternative, which was to process the full refund as a merchandise credit. In spite of my best attempts to inform her that I couldn't do what she was asking and why she shouldn't want that capability on my end, this customer thought I just didn't have the clearance and wanted me to get my manager. And wouldn't you guess it, my manager said the exact same thing. Sadly, I don't remember what the customer ended up deciding, though I'm assuming she took the full merchandise credit in the end. I do remember what I told my manager as we watched this customer walk out the door, because I said to him, if I could have done what she was asking me to do, I definitely would not be working in retail. This customer seemed to believe that I had the skills to hack the computer to do exactly what she wanted, which really would be my ticket out of working in retail. This story resonates with me because honestly, customers sometimes are so unreasonable. They legitimately will be like, oh yeah, you can hack the system and do it just for me. Go ahead and do it. I need it done. And it's like, dude, if I could do that, I absolutely would, and I would quit this stupid job. So yeah, this customer was being needlessly silly in my opinion, because what they were asking for was completely ridiculous. An entitled Karen tries to cut in line in front of me and eventually freaks out when I tell her no, claiming that I'm a heartless jerk and that I don't have the Christmas spirit. And at this point, I'm wondering if I'm the jerk by denying her request, because at this point, I really don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So my mom sent me to the grocery store 3 times today. I was just picking up 2 packs of beans on the last visit, and I was in a rush to get home since it was 7:00 p.m. While I was waiting for a self-checkout to open up, someone who I guess was this woman's ride came in to check up on her, and then I guess she was in a bit of a rush because she came up behind me and tried to squeeze in front of me while also saying, "Excuse me." Now, I just ignored her and continued waiting, but then she asked me if she could cut in front of me, and she told me that she had to pick up her son from a soccer game. Now, I thought it would be reasonable to say no, and I explained I only had 2 items and that it wouldn't take that long for her to wait since, you know, there were 7 checkouts. But then she started calling me a heartless jerk and that I don't have the Christmas spirit and how I want her son to suffer in the cold and how people these days have no compassion. She also started talking about her labor and contractions when she gave birth, which by the way, I don't know how any of this relates to me in the slightest. Honestly, I was really uncomfortable. It wouldn't be hard for me to just let her go. Usually, if someone were to ask and they had less items than me, then of course. But I felt like it wouldn't make much of a difference in time. I only have 2 items and it's also -5 degrees outside and it's not even soccer season. So truly, am I the jerk in this situation? Because right now, I'm still very confused about what happened. Okay, this lady is crazy entitled and honestly, there's no other way of looking at this. She literally tried to use every excuse in the book. First of all, it's -5 degrees outside and it's not even soccer season. So she was just literally trying to make you feel guilty by being like, oh, think of the children. And to me, you can really see how someone actually is when you tell them no to something that they want. Because this entitled Karen flew off the handle the second you told her no. She was like, oh, you're such a heartless jerk. You have no compassion or Christmas spirit. By the way, labor and contractions were hard for me when I gave birth. And at this point, she's basically reaching for anything. Literally something she can be like, oh yeah, this is your fault. You're a terrible person. And I just love the fact that she tried to scoot in front of you and be like, oh, excuse me, I'm getting in front of you. It's like, no, you're not. You're getting in the back of the line or going to any of the other 7 checkout lines you can get your stuff at. So no, you're definitely not the jerk. And honestly, I'm really glad that you said no, because people like this, in my opinion, absolutely need to be shut down. Am I the jerk for getting upset at my brother after he dumped out my last pair of contacts, rendering me practically blind for the rest of my vacation? Because right now I'm very frustrated and I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. I'm a 20-year-old female and I am a glasses and contact wearer, and I only come home during winter break to see my family, but also I'm coming home to get a refill for my prescriptions and go to my doctors and my dentist. I never stay for very long because due to situations in the past, I don't feel comfortable staying with my immediate family for long periods of time. Now, it being December, I was on my last pair of contact lenses, and my appointment to go to the optometrist is in 2 days. But once I order my contacts, they will not get to my university address until after my semester courses begin. That being said, I had just planned on wearing my contacts to the end of the month and then switch to my glasses when I head back to school. However, today, my 17-year-old brother literally dumped out my last pair of contacts, and I found the case and the contact solution all scattered on the bathroom counter. Obviously, that was my only way to see anything for the remainder of the year, so I confronted him, and he denied everything, even though he is the only other person who had been in that bathroom at that point in the day. And mind you, he has a history of lying to cops and other family members. Anyways, I started texting him because he needed to give me the money to replace my contacts, and he said he wasn't going to give me a dime, and then sent the conversation to my sister. She then started talking unnecessarily loud about how mean she thought I was, but conveniently failed to mention that my brother called me various insults, including calling me fat, because my mother, my father, and my sister said that about me literally the moment I got home from school. At that point, they all started yelling at me, saying that my brother is a huge help around the house, and they then told me to get over it, but I'm honestly still upset because I cannot see anything. It's also important to keep in mind that he has gotten into trouble with the school, as well as the cops, and he's also thrown my parents into debt because he caused a car accident. I don't even know how I'm gonna make it through the airport or even go back to school without being able to see. Not only that, but I have a conference and school's starting up again soon, and if I can't see, then I won't be able to do well. But to them, I'm overreacting, and I'm being mean to him even though they won't address what he's done to me. And this is what it's always been like. I end up getting in trouble when people do wrong against me, hence why I don't come home very often. So seriously, am I the jerk in this situation? Because right now I don't know what to do. Okay, you're definitely not the jerk here because your family sounds obnoxious. If your brother wasn't the person to mess with your contacts, then somebody else in the family did it, because now you're literally blind. So it's like, okay, if your brother doesn't want to pay for it, then someone has to. Someone did this to your stuff, and it's not fair that you have to pay the price by not being able to see. So no, you're not the jerk for getting upset about this, because someone's guilty, and honestly, this is not your fault. I beg my parents to please just give me money for Christmas instead of gifts, all because I lost my job and I'm struggling to make rent. But instead of listening to me, they gave me gifts and basically mocked the fact that I was poor. And at this point, I really don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So for Christmas, my parents asked what I wanted, and I told them I just want money. Don't get me gifts, just money, please. For context, I got laid off from my corporate job almost a year ago. I'm still working, just haven't found a new corporate job, but minimum wage does not cover the cost of living in my area in San Diego. So I told both of my parents all I would like is money to go towards rent or food, and to please not give me anything else because I don't need anything else. For more context, my parents are pretty wealthy. They've never helped me out, and I just don't expect them to. They just bought a $4 million home, and my dad just sold his company for a lot of money. It's just hard to be around them because they're extremely out of touch. They constantly spend money and can't fathom that people are struggling right now. I've never had the best relationship with them, considering that they only talk about themselves and make sure to let me know that I don't make any money and that I will never make as much money as my dad. Well, for Christmas, I started getting handed gifts. I know you can say I sound ungrateful, but I knew as soon as I saw presents under the tree for myself, I would not be getting any money. My parents then proceeded to get me the most pointless, expensive things. They even left the price tags on so I could see how much money they spent. They got me 4 Anthropology candles, which totals to about $175, a $50 cat hand towel, a pashmina, a Temu fake houseplant, 2 pairs of running socks, and a cooking spoon. And again, these are all things that I do not need. It was hard to not cry sitting there looking at the price tags and just wishing that I had that money instead of these pointless gifts. On top of that, my parents didn't ask me a single thing about myself this entire Christmas. Instead, I had to sit there and listen about the 2 new Airbnbs they bought and how my mom just did a gift exchange and got a ton of expensive products from her friends. You can say that I'm selfish, but honestly, it hurt. I've lost a lot of weight because I can't afford to eat. I left feeling worse about myself and hating them even more. And right now, I really don't know what to do. Man, if I was in your shoes, I would sell all those stupid gifts. They literally left the price tags on them. Like, if you really are that hard up for money and you need to make rent, then I would personally start selling those off. Because the way your parents acted, in my opinion, is so out of touch. And I'm so sorry you're dealing with this, and I really hope it gets better sooner than later. My entitled psycho parents blamed me for the results of Eurovision, and as a result decided to punish me in a way that was completely ridiculous by confiscating my computer, taking away my allowance, as well as canceling my weekend trip with my friends that we had planned for several weeks. Here's what happened. Okay, so back in 2006 when Eurovision was held in Athens, I was watching the contest at home with my mom and stepdad. Now, my family has never been what you would call normal. There was a lot of psychological mistreatment in the family, but that particular day seemed like it was going to be nice. We had snacks, some soft drinks, and honestly, we had fun. And then Lordi came on stage with Hard Rock Hallelujah. If you don't know what I'm talking about, just Google an image of them, because trust me, it's essential to understand the vibe here. Now, my parents weren't religious at all. They didn't really care about religion one way or the other, but the moment they saw Lordi, they started laughing hysterically. They would say stuff like, "What in the world is this? What a bunch of weirdos. This is ridiculous, stupid stupid and awful. And I was honestly shocked to see Lordi on Eurovision. But I also admitted that I actually know this band, I like them, and I listen to them. I then made the fatal mistake of adding that I even own their CD. I went to my room and I brought it out to show them, and they kept laughing. But now it was me they were laughing at. They said to me, "Oh, you're as stupid as that band. Your whole generation is stupid just like that band." And it's like, sure, whatever. I mean, I was used to this treatment. But overall, the vibe of the evening stayed okay. We were still hanging out together and it was nice overall. That is until Lordi started winning the competition. The more points they got, the happier I got. But as for my parents, well, they were furious. And it didn't take me long to figure out that I needed to stop showing my excitement. Instead, I tried to explain to them that Lordi was a pretty well-known band and probably had fans in many countries. That's why people were voting for them, not because they were necessarily better than my parents' favorites. But it was all too late. Lordi won and my parents absolutely hated losing. And that's when it all really started. It always did. They said stuff like, "Oh, so you're happy now? Happy that your freaks won? I suppose you're going to tell us why this disgusting ideology actually makes sense to you. What's this now? Are you crying? Are you playing the victim again? Poor you. No one likes your stupid music. And now you can gloat because it appeals to a bunch of degenerates." Now, as for teaching me a lesson, my parents took away my computer, forbade me from going on a weekend trip with my friends that we had planned for weeks, by the way, and then confiscated my allowance because apparently I had shown them disrespect. The next day, I ran away from home. And sure, it wasn't the first time I did this over the years, but it certainly would not be the last time. And again, this all comes down to the fact that my band won on Eurovision. Wow, that's a weird reason to get mad at your kid. Like, seriously, you didn't do anything wrong. The fact that they tried to take this out on you is so weird to me. Because clearly this is not your fault that they won. The fact that they're trying to be like, "Oh, this is your fault somehow, you did this." No, you didn't. You just happen to like the band and they just happen to be on Eurovision that year. They probably were gonna win regardless of if you said anything. And yeah, if you look up Lordi, they definitely look weird, but that also is not your fault. Seriously, get a grip. So truly, I'm so sorry that you dealt with this because this is so unbelievably toxic. And hopefully you don't have to deal with them in the same way any longer. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amIthejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Today, I messed up by accidentally becoming the villain in my neighbor's family drama, because right now things have gotten really spicy and I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so I'm not proud of what happened, but I figured I'd share because it's too wild to keep to myself. So I live in a nice, quiet neighborhood. I'm a 30-year-old female, and everything was great until my new neighbor moved in. Let's call him Tom. Tom seemed like a perfectly nice guy. Maybe a little too quiet, but that's no red flag, right? Everything was normal for the first few weeks. I would wave hello, and we'd have small talk about the weather or the occasional DIY project. Then one day, Tom asked if he could borrow my ladder. His fence had fallen down and he needed to fix it. And I thought to myself, no big deal. So I just let him borrow it and that was that. Well, fast forward a few days and Tom starts acting a little bit off. He becomes increasingly distant when I wave at him, and I can sense a weird tension in the air. I thought it was just me overthinking things. That is until one night when I get a knock on my door. It's Tom, but this time he's not alone. He's with his wife and she looks absolutely livid. She says to me, "I need to talk to you about the ladder." And she says this in a way that made me feel like I was about to be accused of something. It turns out Tom had been using the ladder for far more than just fixing his fence. In fact, he had used it to sneak into his ex-wife's house next door and patch things up. Apparently, Tom's ex had moved out after a messy divorce, and Tom had been pretending to borrow my ladder to secretly sneak into her house and work things out with her. And the ladder was like his gateway to rekindling their old relationship. His wife was furious because she had no idea about this and had caught him red-handed. She blamed me for lending him the ladder in the first place, as if I knew he'd use it for that. And it was in that moment that I realized I had accidentally become the unintentional accomplice in a love triangle that I never wanted to be a part of in the first place. Tom's wife ended up giving him an ultimatum, and he moved out a week later. But now every time I see him, he looks at me like I'm the one who ruined his life. So what's the moral of the story? Never lend out your ladder, and never trust a guy who can't fix his own fence. Oh my gosh, this is crazy. Seriously, you were just trying to do the right thing. You literally tried to help out a neighbor who was like, "Hey, I need a ladder, can you help me out?" And just like anybody else in the universe, you were probably thinking, "Oh yeah, that's no problem, I can help you out. You're trying to fix your fence, this is nothing nefarious in the slightest." But then here comes Tom using it for things that he absolutely should not have been using it for. That's not only incredibly hilarious, and I'm sorry to say that, but that's also nuts. What is going on right now? And seriously, what's with the wife? Why Why is she mad at you as if you're the one that did this? You didn't know Tom was going to use that to try and cheat. You thought he was going to use it to fix his stupid fence. So yeah, this is super awkward and hopefully things get better sooner than later. My entitled toxic neighbor has a loud obnoxious party late into the night, causing me and my neighbors problems as well as trashing the entire neighborhood. So I decided to get revenge by gathering all the trash that they had spread and dumping it on their front lawn, forcing them to come to grips with how awful they've been. Here's what happened. Okay, so this happened a few years ago. I live in a very nice landmark neighborhood and everyone is pretty respectful except for one neighbor. It was a Saturday night at the end of June and this person, who was a judge mind you, was making a graduation party for her daughter. Starting at 11 o'clock in the morning, the music was so loud that my windows were shaking and I only live a few houses away from her. She walked past my house as I was sitting on the porch and asked if the music was too loud. And I said that it was a bit too loud, thinking that she would turn it down, but no. Instead, she shrugged at me with a smirk and walked back to her house. This went on well past midnight with loud music and guests all over the street yelling. Eventually, the police finally came by and shut her down. Well, fast forward, and it's important to know that I'm an early riser and I was up that Sunday morning at 6 o'clock in the morning to feed the neighbor's homeless cats. All over my lawn and everybody else's lawn, including the corner, there was a lot of garbage. We're talking plates, cups, plastic cutlery, and partially eaten food. It was disgusting and it was starting to rain. So I went inside, I got myself a garbage bag and proceeded to collect all the garbage. It practically filled a 13-gallon bag and now it was raining. Well, once the neighborhood was clean, I walked to her front lawn and dumped the entire bag onto her property. And now at this point, it was practically pouring rain. She then complained to a neighbor that someone dumped garbage on her lawn in the rain and she wanted to know who did it. Well, the neighbor told her that she had no idea who did it, but her party was pretty loud and her guests were disrespectful. So seriously, what did she expect? Now, she never found out who it was, but also she never had a loud party ever again, which in the end is exactly what I wanted, so I consider that an absolute win. Man, I cannot stand when neighbors act this way, where they look at you and say, oh, is it too loud? Are we being too loud right now? And then when you tell them yes, they literally turn around and do nothing. I've had some neighbors like that in the past, and they are the absolute worst to deal with. So I love revenge like this because it sends a clear message that they absolutely cannot ignore. Am I the jerk for uninviting my parents to Christmas dinner after my mom started mouthing off and being very controlling over the fact that I didn't want her dog at my house while we were having dinner? Here's what happened. Okay, so my husband is cooking a huge dinner for Christmas. He is a great cook, and this was supposed to be a gift from him to my parents. He's worked on prep for a week, and we spent a lot of money on this. I've deep cleaned our home and decorated it, and a lot of work went into our hosting them here tonight. But I just uninvited them, and I have mixed feelings about all of this. About a week ago, my mom tried to rearrange the date, the dinner, the food, everything. Basically, behaving like a person being forced to do something that they didn't want to do. The menu includes their favorites. We offered adaptions of foods, times, location, and we tried to make it something nice for them. My dad was looking forward to it, and my mom wasn't, no matter how much we offered to tweak it. Last night, my mom asked if she could bring her dog, and I said no. Her poodle is the love of her life, I get it, but the last time it was here, it literally went to the bathroom everywhere. It even destroyed one of our dog beds. I don't want to deal with it in my home. I then got a snide text last night from my mom. It was one line, and it said that they would come even if their dog wasn't welcome. She doesn't want to be away from her dog on Christmas. I replied that I was looking forward to having them over, and it was a reactionary response as I didn't really know how to reply. Well, this morning I reread the text, how rude the tone was, and that from the wording alone, how much my mom didn't want to come to our house. I showed my husband the text, and we decided to have a quiet dinner alone. We're going to make to-go plates for my parents and bring it to them. My dad will greatly appreciate it, but my mom is complaining that we canceled. And at this point, I literally feel like my mom just chose a poodle over us. They would be here for maybe an hour. 1 hour, that's it. And I guess I could have watched it that long, but I just didn't want to. So am I the jerk for canceling the day of and choosing a peaceful dinner instead of dealing with my mom? Because right now, I seriously don't know what to do. Okay, in my opinion, you are definitely not the jerk. These people wanted to bring over their obnoxious dog, who, by the way, practically destroyed your house previously. It was peeing on everything and destroying your property. Like, seriously, I would not want that in my home either. And the fact that your mom doesn't understand that, or even acknowledge that yes, that happened the last time it was over, like that for me is so out of touch, it's not even funny. So no, you are definitely not the jerk. You haven't done anything wrong by choosing peace over that kind of drama, because what your mom was asking, in my opinion, was completely out of line. Am I the jerk for telling a woman sitting behind me to stop humming so loudly during a classical music concert, as she was literally ruining my entire experience. Here's what happened. So my fiance and I enjoy going to live classical music concerts as a special date night. Yesterday, I spent $110 on 2 front row seats for holiday music that we were excited for. But not even 15 seconds after the music started, the woman directly behind me began loudly humming with the music. At first, I tried to ignore it, hoping that she would stop, but she just kept going. And this was not a subtle thing. It was incredibly loud. You could see her being overly touchy with her husband as well, and she was clearly drunk. The husband at one point said something around the lines of her needing to stop as it's not polite, but the wife just laughed it off. But I was becoming incredibly mad at this point. I'm not a confrontational guy. I hate confrontation, but I was just brewing the entire time. But my fiance seemed to not have directly noticed, so I didn't want to cause a scene or ruin her night. Well, 30 minutes into the concert, I told my fiance I needed to say something. I can't hear the music, and I was so frustrated. That's when my fiance noticed and told me it's okay and to not make a scene. Well, maybe 5 minutes later, the woman behind me began singing, straight up singing in the middle of the concert. And if you're not familiar with classical music etiquette, you don't sing, you don't hum any tune, you literally don't make a sound. I mean, you don't even tap your feet. You just stay quiet. This is when I turned around, directly looked at the woman, and I said to her, "Ma'am, please stop." The woman looked at me confused and asked me to repeat it, so I said to her, "Ma'am, please stop. I've been listening to you for the entire concert." She then hand waved me away out of embarrassment, and her husband didn't even look at me because he looked embarrassed. I could hear others laughing after I said that to her, and you could hear the whispers of others giggling and repeating what I said to their significant other. But guess what? She didn't stop. She tapped me on the shoulder 5 minutes later to apologize, and I waved her away. I didn't want to accept any apology. I was frustrated, and I didn't want to acknowledge her. If it wasn't for my fiance being able to enjoy most of the show, I would have asked for a refund or for someone to ask her to leave. But I do feel bad because my fiance now more tuned into the sound, and she became frustrated with all the humming. I mean, this lady was directly into my ear, but my fiance, though next to me, was just a bit further and at an angle that made it as to why she didn't notice at first. But she then said something to the woman asking her to be quiet, but again, no change happened. Honestly, when the concert ended at the hour mark, I didn't want to look at that woman. I didn't want to do anything but leave. I paid $110 to listen to a woman hum in my ear for an hour. And sure, it was a lesson in patience, but not in a good way. So am I the jerk for telling her to stop? Should I have escalated it to staff or handled it differently? I am genuinely not a confrontational guy. I've never been in this position before, and it makes me incredibly uncomfortable. So for me to have to say anything is very out of character. What should I do? No, you're not the jerk here. This lady was crazy. She knows for a fact she's not supposed to be making any noise during a concert like this, and the fact that she was making noise is proof that she is absolutely unbelievably toxic. So in my opinion, I think you should have escalated further. You told her once to shut up and she just completely ignored you. At that point, I would have gotten someone from staff and been like, okay, she needs to move or I want a refund. Because you literally paid over $100 for these tickets. This is not a cheap concert, meaning that there are standards these people have to follow if they're going to be in the audience. So no, you're not the jerk for saying something, because I think you did the right thing. Because this woman is absolutely toxic for doing what she did. My new job has possibly bait and switched me by promising me that I would be a server, only to then tell me that I was instead going to be a food runner. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so in a city near mine, there is a popular privately owned Greek restaurant that I recently got hired to be a server at. They told me that their training process is 2 days server shadowing, 2 days food running, and a final day where a server shadows you. I asked if I would have to work food running shifts, and they said no, stating that it's just our process. The way it was worded, I assumed it was 5 days, and I had 5 server training shifts on their scheduling app. Now, the second day in, I have things down pretty well, and the manager tells me they actually don't hire during holidays because the holidays are busy. And they did this year because they were closed for 2 months due to hurricane damage, and with this in mind, I would have to food run until the new year. When they were pressed about it, they didn't give me any specific dates besides after January 6th. They didn't even say how many more days I would need on server training, and they told me that I was being pushy for asking about it. Now, I'm not being singled out. The other servers that they hired are going through the same process. In fact, I talked to a food runner who said he was hired to serve 2 months ago, but still hasn't been moved up. But here's the thing, it gets even worse. I applied to work full time, so maybe 30 to 40 hours, and I only got about 17 this week as a food runner. So when I asked a manager manager if I'd get more hours serving, his answer was pretty much to say, yeah, probably. And when I asked how to stick it out so that I could maybe get consistent days or hours, he said to just keep doing what I'm doing. And now I don't know what to think. It sounds like no one is applying to food run because food running sucks and they're having to lie to get people in the door, but I don't want to quit because if they're being genuine and I work here the next 10 years, I won't even remember this moment of doubt. What should I do? Oh man, this place sounds super toxic and there's no way I would ever stick around. Don't get me wrong, I would stick around through like the holidays and at least till like January 6th, but you better believe I'm gonna be finding some other place to work, especially if they really are trying to bait and switch you, which by the way, it does sound like that's what they're doing. Because here's the thing, dishonest tactics like this are never a good idea, especially when it comes from your boss. Like that is so mean and it sets an awful precedent because you're starting off your relationship with a lie. And what an awful lie at that. Like this is your employment. This is the way you make money. And they're gonna sit there and be like, yeah, you might get one. Also, don't ask too much about it because you're being pushy. And personally, in my opinion, the only reason they're being like, oh, you're being pushy right now is because they know they're in the wrong. They know for a fact they're doing this wrong and they absolutely need to fix this. But they're currently in a bind and they're like, oh yeah, let's just string these people along for as long as possible. So yeah, these people sound incredibly toxic and I think you should do everything you can to try and get away from them because I really just don't think this is getting any better anytime soon. Am I the jerk for not expressing my discomfort when my partner's ex ended up being our server at dinner? Because right now, I do not know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so last night after our Christmas gift exchange, my partner suggested that we go to a popular restaurant near my house. They had previously mentioned that their ex worked there, but I trusted their judgment and I didn't think much of it. Once we enter the restaurant, I noticed a shift in my partner's energy. Before arriving, we had been affectionate and joking around, but as soon as we walked in, they became quieter and avoided making eye contact with me. It was then that they waved and said hi to their ex, who then ended up being our server. During the interactions with their ex, my partner didn't introduce me, and I felt boxed out as their ex stood close to me, facing only my partner and giving compliments and kindness. This made me feel invisible and very uncomfortable. After we already ordered, my partner asked if I was okay if there was anything they could do. I said I was uncomfortable but didn't push to leave because I thought that it might make things more awkward. I waited for just a simple introduction, but it didn't happen. Later in the meal, their ex asked if we wanted separate checks, which only reinforced my feelings that the situation didn't look like a date. After dinner, I explained how I felt and my partner got upset. They said I should have been open earlier and not expected them to read my mind. I told them that their shift in energy and lack of introduction made me feel completely sidelined. They explained they were caught off guard by seeing their ex and don't think about them ever. So they were not expecting this and they didn't want to make the situation uncomfortable for their ex by introducing me because my partner broke up with them. However, this made me feel hidden and as though my feelings were less important than their ex's comfort. My partner felt I was ignoring their discomfort and did not offer them the benefit of the doubt. I felt like my hurt was being sidelined in the conversation and that it was unfair for me to be the one to express discomfort and I shouldn't have brought it into that situation. We ended the conversation with them saying they needed time to process, so it's honestly leaving me wondering, am I the jerk for not expressing my needs earlier and letting the situation linger until after dinner? Because right now I seriously don't know what to do. Okay, I really don't think that you're the jerk here because your partner absolutely should have introduced you. There's no real good excuse for the fact that he didn't say anything because this waiter was his ex. Like seriously, think about it for a second. If it was a random person who was serving you, of course you wouldn't introduce them. You would go about ordering your food and everything would be pretty much normal. But this is an ex that they broke up with. They are the one that moved on and now they're at the restaurant that their ex works at. Like if I went to a restaurant and I saw my ex-girlfriend there and I had my new girlfriend with me, I would be like, oh wait, we're gonna leave and go literally anywhere else. And even if I did stay, the last thing I would ever want is to have them as my server. Like what if that was a nasty breakup and this was some kind of like toxic situation? That would be an absolute nightmare to navigate. Who's to say that they wouldn't like, I don't know, sabotage your food or spit in it or something like that? Because as far as I'm concerned, that easily could have happened that night. And sure, maybe you should have said something, but it's like, okay, what can you really do? This is someone you don't really know, but you do know they were with your partner. And it is so strange to me that the responsibility of voicing any concern literally is falling on your shoulders. I'm not saying that your partner should have like known that this was a weird situation, but the least they could have done was acknowledge your existence and at least say, oh look, this is my new partner. This is the person I'm dating right now and I love them very much. Like literally anything to make the situation better. So no, you're not the jerk here because honestly, your partner is 100% at fault. An entitled jerk leaves garbage all over the place in my condo parking lot by quite literally immediately throwing his garbage out of his window, leaving it for me and the rest of my neighbors to deal with when he leaves. So I decided to get some revenge by dumping a trash bag full of rotting garbage into his sunroof. Here's what happened. So at a complex I lived at, a young kid in a badly restored 70s BMW, courtesy of mommy and daddy, was dating a nice young girl in the complex and always sat in the parking bay opposite my place and ate fast food with his date. He always tossed the packaging out of the window onto the tarmac before heading off, despite the dumpster corral being 20 feet away from his car. This was a small condo community, and it was pretty much spotless all the time, and this was happening 1 to 2 times a week. I mean, I lost track of the number of times I picked it up. My bedroom overlooked the parking bay, and I saw them scarfing away there one day and went down to very diplomatically and politely ask them to put the garbage in the dumpster. He then screamed out, "Well, how do you know it was me?" But I explained that it was beyond mere coincidence, that every time I saw his car with them eating fast food there, when they left, there would be a pile of Taco Bell garbage right where he parked. I was very calm and respectful, and I just asked him to respect the neighborhood. But this arrogant little brat came back and said, "Are you watching me?" I calmly explained no, but his car was very distinctive, and that I had owned one myself when I was a mere zygote, and to please not flatter himself into thinking that I would somehow have any interest in his personal activities beyond the littering issue. His girlfriend was completely embarrassed all through this, especially when I asked her if she was okay with his practice of dumping garbage out of the car window onto our community. I ended the conversation amicably by saying, "Here, I'm going to the dumpster right now. Put your garbage in my bag," which thankfully he did. And I really thought this was the end of the story, but unfortunately there was a lot more. And this is where my revenge takes place. 3 days later, I looked out of my window, and there on the tarmac lay more Taco Bell debris. Only this time the car was still there. They must have both gone back to her place, leaving the sunroof completely open. I then decided to get the kitchen garbage, mostly peelings and smelly takeout leftovers, and me not having my glasses, I somehow confused the roof of the car for the opening of our dumpster. You know, a Mr. Magoo kind of genuine mistake. I also messed with him further by reporting him to the condo management office, who promptly banned his awful car from the premise under threat of towing. And thankfully, after the fact, there was no fallout, as he didn't know where I lived in the complex, and I thankfully never saw or even thought about him ever again. Oh man, I really wish I could have seen the look on his face when he came back to his car and realized it was covered in rotting garbage. First of all, if you litter, you're an awful person. I'm just gonna say it. Like, there really is no excuse, and it really is incredibly easy to take care of your garbage, especially if you're eating Taco Bell. Guess what? That stuff comes in a bag. Just put your junk in the bag and then throw it out when you get home. Like, it's really not that hard. Doesn't everybody do that? So the fact that he was trying to be like, "Wow, how do you know it was me? Are you watching me? What are you doing?" Trying to like spin this against you in some kind of way, that is so annoying, it's not even funny, because he's ignoring the fact that yes, he is littering all over the place, and he just doesn't even care. And I'm also wondering why the girlfriend didn't say anything the second he did it the first time. Like, why would you want to date someone who is acting like that? That does not sound like boyfriend material. Like, seriously, get a grip. So seriously, good for you for dumping the garbage in his car. Sure, it wasn't really a nice thing to do, but neither is him leaving all of his garbage all over the place, because you live in that complex just like everybody else there, and you deserve to have a clean environment to live in just as much as he deserves to have a clean car to come back to. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My entitled friend conveniently forgets my birthday, but expects me to spend a lot of money with hers coming up in January. And right now, I feel very ticked off that this is happening the way that it is, and at this point, I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So my friend forgot my birthday this year, and it was the second time that she's done this. For some context, we are in our early 20s, we're not married, and we have no kids yet. I'm not a big birthday person, and it wasn't a milestone year or anything like that, so I asked a week before my birthday if she wanted to just grab lunch as it was a Sunday. She said she had a trip planned, which was understandable, so I ended up having dinner with another friend. The day rolled around, and I didn't even get a happy birthday, but she did text me numerous times to send me pictures of her getting her nails done and ordering a drink. Well, fast forward to her birthday, which is in January. She wants to go to a really fancy restaurant where prices are up to $150 per person, and since it's a birthday, I will be required to buy a gift as well. Firstly, this took me by surprise because we never planned to celebrate together. I mean, honestly, I'd never spend that much on one meal anyways, as I just think that it's kind of absurd, especially in this current economic climate where groceries are really expensive. I also mentioned to her a while ago that I'm on a really tight budget as I'm saving towards a big purchase, and this is alongside paying the usual bills. Not to mention, Christmas has just passed, so it's been a period of spending on gifts and food. Now, here's the thing. She just recently got a raise at work, so she's been on kind of a spending spree as a reward. So am I justified in feeling a bit ticked off that she just expects me to do the same and spend an absurd amount of money in celebrating her birthday? What should I do? Okay, honestly, the fact that your friend's like, okay, we're gonna spend all this money at this restaurant, when she herself didn't even do anything for your birthday, like that seems a little bit lopsided, and I don't think I would ever participate in that. It's really disrespectful, and honestly, I just don't think that's a good idea. So yes, you are absolutely justified in feeling pissed off about this, because if I was in your shoes, I would feel the exact same way. My friends are warning me to leave my boyfriend, but they refuse to tell me why. And right now, I'm worried that I'm missing something, and at this point, I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. I'm a 25-year-old female, and I've been dating my boyfriend for about a year, and I thought everything was going great, or at least from my perspective. He is charming, attentive, and we have so much fun together. But lately, my friends have been acting really weird about him. They started dropping subtle hints, like, are you sure you're happy? Or, you know we're here for you, right? It feels like they're trying to hint at something, but whenever I ask them outright, they just shrug it off or change the subject. Recently, one of my closest friends told me, I think you should get out of this relationship before it gets worse. But she refused to give me a reason. She just said to me, I can't tell you right now, but you will see it eventually. I feel stuck because I don't see what they're seeing. Sure, my boyfriend has his flaws. Like, he is a bit controlling about how I spend my time. For example, he doesn't like it when I go out with my friends without him, and he will call or text me constantly to check in. If I don't reply right away, he gets upset and accuses me of ignoring him. He also doesn't really like my friends, and will say things like, I just don't think they're good for you. Or he would say, they're jealous of what we have. He's also made some concerning comments about my appearance. He'll tell me I don't need to wear makeup or dress up because I'm already his. And if I push back, he gets defensive and says he's just being honest. He even threw out a few of my favorite outfits once, saying they didn't fit the new me. Another thing that's been bothering me is how he handles money. He insists on paying for most things, which seemed generous at first, but now he uses this against me. If we argue, he will bring up how much he's done for me financially, making me feel guilty. He's even asked me to quit my job because, according to him, he can take care of everything. But I love my job and I don't want to give it up. The other day, he went through my phone while I was in the shower, claiming he was just curious because I've been acting distant. Now, I wasn't even acting weird, but he said it like I had something to hide. He apologized later, but now I feel like I have to walk on eggshells to avoid upsetting him. When it's just us, he is sweet and loving. He talks about our future together, and he's there when I'm upset. But my friend's reactions and his behavior have me second-guessing everything. So am I overthinking this? Are my friends overreacting? Or is there something I'm too blinded by love to see? Their silence is starting to make me anxious, and at this point, I don't know what to do. Okay, first off, you say you don't know what's going on and you don't know what they're talking about, but what you just described sounds incredibly weird. This seems like the beginning of a very controlling relationship. This guy's throwing out your outfits. He's saying, oh, you're mine already. You don't have to look like that. And he's also being like, oh, just quit your job. I'll take care of you. And that's all a bunch of red flags in my opinion, because it shows that this is just the beginning of him like testing the waters. And sure, I could be wrong about this guy. Like, I don't actually know him. I only know him based on what you just described. But from what you have described, he sounds incredibly controlling. Like, the second anybody's like, oh, just quit your job. I'll take care of you. That for me is like, okay, that doesn't seem right. Why would you not want me to have a job and provide for myself? Because in some cases, other people have dealt with that, and then suddenly they have no money, and it's like, wait a second, I have to rely on you now. They look up and they're stuck and they have nowhere else to go. And then this guy can control them no matter what. So in my opinion, I think your friends are onto something. They clearly see the way that he's treating you, and in my opinion, I think this is something that you absolutely should take seriously. My boyfriend hates his Christmas present, and he is furious that he didn't get something better from me and my family. And now I feel completely stuck because right now I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so I shared my first Christmas with my boyfriend this year, and we both got each other gifts that we love. My family wanted to get my boyfriend something as he would be spending Christmas with us and not his own family this year. My mom asked me what he likes, and I explained a few of his favorite things, such as American football, nice whiskeys, chocolates, etc. My dad chose his gift and opted for a really nice bottle of whiskey that wasn't cheap, alongside a gift from the both of us. Now, I am spoiled and I still got my usual Santa gifts from my family also, but when my boyfriend opened his gifts, he was furious, stating that he feels disrespected and wants gifts that define his worth. I feel so bad. I feel like my family really wanted him to like it and meant no offense by it. He went on to state, as for my birthday, I only got a football jersey from them. I said I feel bad for my family, and now he is angry at me, saying I should feel worse for him as he has been unappreciated. So right now I feel like I'm at such a loss, and I really don't know how to navigate this situation. Wow, your boyfriend boyfriend is a piece of garbage. First of all, the fact that he got a gift in the first place should be a victory in and of itself. Even if he doesn't like it, he should have been super grateful and been like, oh wow, thank you so much. This is amazing. I'm gonna love and cherish this for the rest of my life. Like, that's what I would do if I was in that situation. Even if I didn't like it, I would still make some kind of effort to show gratitude. Because here's the thing, they didn't have to get him anything. They could have easily been like, well, you're just the boyfriend, so we're not gonna get you anything besides maybe a gift card, if that. So for him to act this way, that is honestly crazy to me. Not to mention the fact that he's like, wow, you should feel guilty, you should feel worse about this. I'm not being appreciated. I demand to have gifts that define my worth as a person. And it's like, dude, this is Christmas. What are you talking about? They got you a gift to be nice because you're not with your normal family. Like, what is the problem here? This is so overblown, it's not even funny. And the fact that he pulled this stunt in front of your entire family, you know, the people who bought him the gift in the first place, that for me is a massive red flag that if I was in your shoes, I would absolutely not ignore. An entitled jerk behind me was talking on his phone full blast, as he had his FaceTime up at full volume, literally disturbing everybody around him. So I decided to get petty revenge by playing Christmas music right in his ear, forcing him to end his call and realize that he was in the wrong. Here's what happened. Okay, so I took my kid to Waffle House for a late Christmas breakfast. We get seated and start discussing what we're going to order, only to then be interrupted by the guy at the table behind me making a FaceTime call at full blast. For the uninitiated, the booth seats in Waffle House are back to back with no gaps or dividers, so you're pretty close to the people seated behind you. Hoping this was just a temporary annoyance, I tried to ignore it, but after a few more minutes of not being able to hold a conversation, it was obvious my kid was nearing sensory overload, as was I. For reference, we're both high-functioning autism. So I lean over the guy's shoulder until I'm fully in frame of his video. He then turns and we make eye contact. I then raise my eyebrows and I give him a look while motioning to his phone. He barely skipped a beat, rolled his eyes, and turned back and went back to his call, just as loud as ever. So I figured if I had to be overloaded, then music would be marginally better than listening to his cackling, buzzy phone conversation. So I placed my phone on the back of the seats between me and the guy, and then I put Christmas music on while slowly starting to turn up the volume until it was just obnoxious enough to disrupt his conversation. And you know what? It worked. He made a comment to the other person that he had to go, and he would call them back later, and then he hung up. We then exchanged another dirty look as I turned my music off and we all enjoyed our meals in peace. Because honestly, it didn't need to get to this point because this guy was being super disrespectful. Okay, I'm so glad you did this because I cannot stand when people go on FaceTime and they're obnoxiously loud. Like seriously, just get some headphones. That way you're not disturbing everybody around you. I can understand if you're like quietly talking to someone, but if you have the volume at full blast, you are the problem in this situation. Because guess what? You can absolutely fight fire with fire by being like, okay, now I'm gonna play Christmas music as loud as possible. And now neither of us get to enjoy our Christmas breakfast. So yes, you did the right thing by getting this petty revenge because this guy was completely out of line. Am I the jerk for not handing over a gift that my friend gave me that his now girlfriend is demanding that I hand over, as she claims that because she is his girlfriend, she deserves to have anything that he gave to me, which honestly has left me feeling very awkward, and at this point, I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. I'm a 20-year-old female, and I have a friend, let's call him Josh for the sake of the story, who I have known most of my life. We've never dated or anything like that, and at least on my end, the friendship is purely platonic. For 2 years, he's been in a relationship with someone I will call Heather, and since they started dating, her and I have been really good friends, almost inseparable. I also have a boyfriend of 4 years, and all of us hang out fairly often. When we were like 13 years old, Josh had a phase where he was really into woodworking, and he made me a small wooden bowl. I kept it on my bathroom counter and I put my earrings in it. I like it a lot, and it's a cute memento from my childhood. Well, about a week ago, Heather and I were getting ready to go Christmas shopping, and I was doing my makeup in the bathroom when she pointed out the bowl and asked where it came from. I'm guessing Josh mentioned it to her because the way she asked about it was like she knew the answer. I don't know how else to describe it, but it was almost accusatory. Like she had just caught me doing something I shouldn't be doing. I told her it was from Josh when we were like 13 years old, so she told me, well, since he's my boyfriend, I think I should have it now. But when she said that, I told her no, that he made it for me when we were kids and I didn't want to give it away. She then started arguing with me about it, and I asked her to leave because I could not reason with her. Since then, I've tried to reach out to her and she just hasn't responded. And I haven't tried to reach out to Josh at all because I feel like it just wouldn't be appropriate, and I don't know how much of this situation he knows about, whether he agrees with her and anything else. My boyfriend agrees that I should not have given it to her, and of course, he and Josh have talked, but not about this. It's just a very awkward situation, and I'm honestly wondering, am I the jerk for not giving my friend friend's girlfriend a gift that my friend gave me when we were young. What should I do? No, you're not the jerk. This is so weird. Heather's being a weirdo, and honestly, this has nothing to do with you. She's clearly the jealous type, and she's trying to find any reason to be like, oh wow, stay away from my boyfriend. You two are not together, and I'm his girlfriend, so I'm gonna take this gift from you. And honestly, if I was in your shoes, I would have done the same thing. You guys are literally just friends. You have a boyfriend of your own for 4 years. For Heather to walk in and be like, what is this? How dare you have this? Like, that is so strange, and if anything, it just highlights her insecurity. So no, you're not the jerk in this situation because the way she's acting is incredibly weird. An entitled jerk literally runs me off the road while I'm driving in Florida. So I decided to catch up to him and report him to a state trooper, causing him to inevitably get pulled over for driving like a maniac. Here's what happened. So a while ago, some jerk ran me off the road on I-75 in Florida. I watched him split traffic to get past 10 more cars to get ahead of traffic, but I couldn't get it on camera. We then met again at an exit 5 miles later at a traffic stop, and I was right behind him. He obviously made such a great time, causing 10 separate accidents in a 5-mile radius, that I was able to catch up in a couple of minutes without speeding. When we were waiting for the light, I happened to be stopped next to a parked state trooper, and I signaled him over. I mean, I am so sick and tired of stupid drivers that I told this cop my story, and I promised that if he got behind him, it wouldn't take more than a minute to have a reason to pull him over. Well, the cop got behind him, and within 2 traffic lights, the guy failed to signal, made an illegal lane change at an intersection, was aggressively tailgating, cut off the car directly in front of the cop, and his tint was probably illegal without a prescription. And it was truly glorious when the lights finally started flashing. And mind you, this guy's entire car looked like he had been in daily fender benders, and I'm guessing they were all hit and runs. I didn't see the entire traffic stop, but in my dreams he also got arrested for a litany of other things and had some kind of warrant out for his arrest, even though he probably only got a minor ticket. But I giggled like a child for the rest of my 10-minute drive home, and I carried that high for the rest of the week. So to that guy who almost ended my life, I hope that you got exactly what you deserved. Yeah, I completely understand where the original poster is coming from, because when people act like this while they're driving, it honestly just baffles me. Like, how do they get away with all this damage that they're causing and somehow still have a license? Like, these people skate by the law constantly, but if I go over the speed limit just a little bit, suddenly I'm the one getting a ticket. So in this instance, it's really cool to see that karma actually was taking effect, because people like this absolutely deserve to get in trouble. Today, I messed up by falling for a grocery store scam, resulting in all of my belongings being stolen right from underneath my nose. And I'm now so embarrassed that I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So I get paid every other week, and I have auto pay on my bills, so they line up with my payday. Unfortunately, my last 2 paydays haven't been as much as they normally are, and I fell behind on bills shortly after Thanksgiving. I was able to get caught up a few days ago, thanks to doing odd jobs and turning off auto pay on my credit cards, so I could afford to buy Christmas presents for my loved ones. Since I had to wait until the last minute to buy presents because I didn't have the money, my options were obviously limited, and I had to pick and hunt like a madman at Walmart to get gifts my loved ones would actually want, and not just junk that will clutter the back of their closets. My best find was a perfume scent that my mom has worn since I was young that is hardly available in my area, and it was the last box on the shelf. Now fast forward to me being proud of my last minute haul and walking out to my car feeling good when I see a really pregnant woman in the car next to mine trying to load some big boxes into her car. I figured that she was in the same boat as me and just needed a little bit of help since she was shopping alone. I pushed my cart with all of my bags of presents up against my trunk, and I asked if she needed some help, and she smiled all big and was super grateful for my help. I wasn't even thinking about my stuff being out of my line of sight, and I really tried my hardest to squeeze all of her stuff into the trunk of this tiny little car, taking time to make sure that nothing got damaged or dented when I was loading it. When her cart was empty, I offered to push it to the corral for her, and she said thank you and quickly got into her car and started pulling out, all before I even had a chance to put my hand on the cart to grab it. Now, I automatically stepped back to get out of the way of being backed into, and that's when I realized that my cart wasn't a few feet behind me anymore. In fact, it wasn't there at all. I can only assume that she had a friend or partner nearby that grabbed my stuff when I wasn't looking and made off with it in a separate car, because the entire interaction only took like 90 seconds at most. Now, I don't have the money to replace any of the gifts, not to mention that I couldn't even if I did, since that was the last perfume set that they had in stock. I'm honestly embarrassed and angry, and I don't know how to tell my family how dumb I was to not pay attention to my stuff. Okay, first and foremost, I'm so sorry this happened to you, because this really is so tragic. Like, I really just can't imagine someone being so dishonest that they would not only prey on your sense of like wanting to help people out, but also the fact that they would rob you on Christmas. Because sure, the way that lady was acting was super sketchy. The second you put all her stuff in the car, and probably when the deed was done, she suddenly went from a pregnant woman who couldn't move to a woman who clearly could get in and out of her car just fine, especially when she peeled out of the parking lot and said, "Okay, see ya." So I'm really sorry that you got scammed and this stuff was stolen from you, because I know if I was in your shoes, I would be so heartbroken and very embarrassed by the way that I got treated. An entitled customer notorious for screaming at my coworkers decided to call in on our busiest day and freak out on me over something that he needed done right away. But after dealing with this for so many times, today I finally snapped as I screamed at this guy and put him in his place in a way that I'm sure he will never forget. Here's what happened. Okay, so my job consists of office work, handling offers, orders, and shipments. We have a customer in his late 60s who's infamous for his behavior. He loves to yell, insult, and treat our workers like garbage. And my boss already told me that if he yells, I can just hang up the phone. Nobody ever wants to talk to this guy. The last time we sent a technician to his company, he yelled at the technician and parked a forklift behind his company car, preventing him from leaving. And this is all because our technician couldn't finish the work and had to return the next day. In fact, his behavior has caused many of our technicians to literally refuse going to his company. Usually, I can handle the guy pretty well, and he sometimes raises his voice at me, but today was the breaking point. His way of calling is usually yelling and then hanging up the phone after you try to talk with him. Now, I'm completely alone in my department because everybody's sick. It's the end of the year, meaning that there's a ton of work to do, so I'm already quite stressed out. The guy sent me an email yesterday because one of his orders was incomplete. I don't have the time to check it out, and I was planning on doing it that day in the afternoon. Well, he calls me and immediately yells at me, saying that I'm incompetent and that I can't do my job. And he also insulted me, as well as calling me lazy and generally just being disrespectful. I answered politely that I'm sorry, but we have a huge workload and we are trying to do everything as quickly as possible. But when I was about to tell him that I was going to check on his problem, he starts yelling on the phone to the point where I almost had to remove my headset. And it was at this moment that I absolutely lost it. I told him that he's not the only customer in this company and that I demand he talks to me in a respectful way without yelling. Well, he keeps yelling and I yelled back, calling him rude and obnoxious, and then I hung up the phone. I stood up and I went for a short walk around the office, and I went to my boss and I told him what had happened. For a moment, I felt all sorts of emotions. First, I was angry and then sad because nobody deserves to be handled like this at work. But afterwards, I felt relieved. My boss told me that I did well and that this customer is about to go on the blacklist because he does this to everybody, including my manager. So I honestly don't know, but I really did feel great afterwards because this guy absolutely had it coming, especially if he's going to be talking to everybody in my office in this way. Wow, good for your manager for banning this guy because this is absolutely unacceptable. Like seriously, this guy should have been banned the second he blocked that company car from leaving, all because they couldn't figure out the problem with his stupid company. Like I hope they called the police when he did that because that is insane behavior. And honestly, why would anyone put up with this for that long? Here you are just trying to do your job, and this guy's acting like you're his whipping post for all of his stupid problems. Like it's not like you did anything wrong here. You're literally trying to help him out, but this guy just doesn't give anybody a word in edgewise. He freaks out on them, he starts screaming and swearing, and he treats everybody like garbage. Like I can understand someone being like a little frustrated because they're not getting the service they need, but this guy's literally not letting you guys give him any service. He just jumps in, screams at you as loud as he can, and then he hangs up like a toddler, only to then call back when it's convenient for him. Like he really tries to act like this is somehow okay and that he can just act like this. And from my own experience in life and just dealing with other customers like this, sometimes you really do have to fight fire with fire. Like sometimes there are just people who act like this and they don't understand how rude and toxic they're being until they get that kind of treatment right back at them. So good for you for standing up for yourself and refusing to take that garbage, because this kind of behavior, in my opinion, is unbelievably toxic. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I overreacting over the fact that my mom tried to mend a bond with my brother by sharing personal information that I didn't want shared? Because right now I'm incredibly frustrated and I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. To start things off, I am one of 10 children. My parents are divorced and I only have regular communication with 2 of my sisters and 1 of my brothers. I haven't had any semblance of a relationship with my father in more than 15 years, as his wife absolutely hates me and has managed to turn all of my other siblings against me. My brother has also had it out for me ever since his child was born. He blocked my number and my iCloud account after ranting to my mother about about how I am living a sinful lifestyle by living unmarried with a boyfriend. I only know all of this because I tried to reach out to him to send Christmas gifts and had to call my mom to ask if he changed his number. I've been living abroad for about 7 years now, but have made trips back for big events, one of which was my brother's wedding. My partner and I have been dating for 2 years, and we moved in together in April. Due to complicated residency issues, we have recently been discussing getting married. It's something we've talked about prior to these issues, but we have felt increasingly more cornered into making the decision sooner rather than later. I recently spoke with my mother and mentioned that we were considering moving forward with paperwork to get a marriage license, but we stated that nothing was serious yet. Also, a few days later, I was speaking with my sister, and I mentioned that I might be getting married. And to my absolute shock, she told me that she already knew. My heart sunk because I knew my mother, who doesn't even speak with my sister, was the only person I had said anything to. My sister then went on to explain that she found out from my brother in a relatively crude way when he texted her to belittle me. As soon as I hung up with my sister, I immediately called my mother in tears. She then admitted to telling my brother, but her reasoning was to make him realize that he could be missing out on major events and that his actions could destroy our relationship. I understand her attempt, and I know that my mom is such a hopeful and optimistic woman, but she is naive and kind to a fault. But even with all of that in mind, my brother has shown recently that he has an intent to cause me emotional harm. My brother also has a big mouth, and I am absolutely certain that he has shared my private life with everyone that I don't speak to. I shared this with a few friends already, and they're split on this. Some of them are saying to let it go and just live my best life, which I am surely on board to do. However, part of me really wants to get back at my mother for sharing my excited news with someone who currently hates me. Like, what in the world was she thinking sharing my happy news with anyone else? She stole my joy and my opportunity to tell people myself and hurt the feelings of people who found out from my brother instead of me. My grandmother, who is my favorite person in the world, is deeply hurt now that I didn't call to tell her before she heard it from my brother. The worst part about all of this is that nothing is even true. My partner hasn't even proposed yet. I don't have a ring, and now this has forced us into an even more awkward position. So am I overreacting for guilting my mom every time we speak now? I've made her cry a few times now, but I don't know how to otherwise show her how badly it hurt me. What should I do? Okay, honestly, I don't think you're overreacting at all because this is so toxic. She completely jumped the start and said, oh my gosh, they're getting married. Basically, he proposed to her. This is so exciting. Like, I don't know about you, but I can't stand when people do this. You literally have good news that could happen, and then someone's like, oh yeah, this is going to happen, so I'm gonna tell everybody before you can. Because if someone does that, then I now know I can never talk to them about anything ever again. Any possibility of me having a private conversation with them is permanently gone, because now I can't trust that they'll even keep that a secret. And I love the part where you said, oh, you stole the joy of me telling people myself, because my God, does that hit the nail on the head for me. This completely resonates with me because I've run into this so many times with people in my life. So no, I don't think you're overreacting because this honestly is so uncalled for. Am I the jerk for refusing to buy my husband any more gifts after he turns down quite literally anything I get him? Here's what happened. Okay, so I've been with my husband, who we will call James, for about 12 years. And we have this argument like clockwork every single birthday and Christmas, but I've had enough. I hate surprises and I hate surprise gifts even more because I lived in a clutter with my parents, and being forced to keep a present to not offend someone really bothers me because then I grapple with frustration, guilt, and general annoyance because now there's a thing taking up space that I don't know what to do with. James, on the other hand, absolutely loves surprise gifts, but he is super picky. He does this thing where he will tell someone, oh, I'm alright with anything, but when he gets that anything, he will make some remark about how he actually wanted X, Y, and Z, which then dampens the mood and makes him sound so childishly ungrateful. It drives me mad because the most hypocritical thing is that if I do that for him, he will get upset and say that I should be grateful. And it's not about the price either, because the things he surprises me with are always either more expensive or around the same price as what I actually asked for. Now, I've tried my hardest to figure out what he'd like, but I always somehow miss the mark. For instance, one year I managed to force him to tell me that he would like any Apple product that I could get him, but when I got him a new iPad to replace his old one, he said that he actually preferred AirPods. I then returned the iPad and he got upset. Another year, he told me he wanted jogging socks from a specific brand, but when he got them, he said that he actually wanted another variant of it. Another year, he kept talking about a specific type of wallet for 6 months straight, sending me posts about it, reviews, pretty much whatever. And I did get it for him, thinking that I've cracked the code, but you know what he said to me? If you guessed him saying, well, actually, I wanted get something else, then you are absolutely correct. And this is one of those things that just rinses and repeats. This year, I tried to ask him again to at least give me a hint to work with, and he playfully told me to surprise him. Years of pent-up frustration got the best of me, and I straight up told him that he's being an ungrateful child, and I will not be surprising him. If he wasn't going to tell me, then he gets nothing. I also told him to stop surprising me with stuff I don't even want, because he's a hypocrite whose feelings will get hurt if I don't fall on my knees thanking him for something I don't want. I'm done coddling him over gifts because it's so stupid, and it's causing undue stress to me. As per the usual, he's gone off to sulk, and I really feel terrible for lashing out at him. So am I the jerk in this situation? Because right now I don't know what to do. Oh man, this is super annoying, because your husband's being weird. Yes, he wants to be surprised with gifts, but it's like anything you get him is never what he actually wants. And if he's throwing down hints by being like, oh yeah, I really want something Apple related, and then you get him an iPad and he's like, no, I wanted AirPods. It's like, what are you talking about? Why didn't you make that known at some point during the year? Like, this all is super annoying, and I don't blame you for getting frustrated. So no, you're not the jerk, because the way your husband's acting is incredibly childish. My coworkers at my job treat me like absolute garbage, as they are all literally in a clique and don't like me simply because I'm the new server at the restaurant. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so recently I got a job at a popular food chain restaurant. I liked it when I first started, but I immediately noticed how close all of the front of house was. It was literally a clique. I ignored it and figured they would eventually respect me as a new hire, but they did not. One server in particular is pretty grown, but does not act her age whatsoever. She's the kind that will look at you like you just kicked her dog over the most simple, fixable mistake, and will be blatantly rude to you for no reason. Also, she's been here for 11 years. I get it. You hate new people when you've worked somewhere so long and have constantly seen people come and go, and sure, it must be so annoying. But do people forget they were new at one point too? Where does being rude and unwelcoming get you in a work environment? Wouldn't you rather be on good terms with all of your coworkers when you come into work every day? I will never understand why some people can be so rude. It came to a point where I was sick of being nice and kissing up to someone who was so rude to me constantly that I started giving her an attitude back just like anybody would normally do. Well, the other day she came up to me and basically questioned me in my face as to why I was acting this way as if I started it. She said she didn't like the attitude that she was getting from me and said that other people were coming up to her to tell her things that I said about her. But the funny thing is, I didn't say anything about her to anyone other than the fact that she isn't the nicest person to me, and I think her attitude is very tacky, which again, that is the truth, and I stand by that. And I should have just said that to her face. So seriously, should I find a new workplace? Is it worth it if everyone is so cliquey and looks at me differently because I'm so new? Has anyone ever dealt with something similar? I mean, how do I deal with this? It's driving me nuts, and I genuinely don't think that anyone will be any nicer to me, and at this point, I don't know what to do. Okay, honestly, I've dealt with people like this, and it is absolutely the worst. First of all, at least from my experience, the only reason they hate you is because you're new. Like, that's the only reason this is going so badly for you. They don't like you because you're new and you're not somebody that they recognize. And from the sounds of it, it doesn't sound like this group of people will ever accept you under any circumstances. So you can either ignore them and live your best life and just not even acknowledge them, or you can find a new place to work. Now, I've done both of these, and I found the most happiness by finding another job. These people suck, and I guarantee you it starts from the top down. So truly, I'm so sorry they're treating you like this, and I really hope you're able to find something much better than what you're currently going through. Am I overreacting for boycotting my family's Christmas plans? All because they gave my sister the house that I had asked for. Because right now, I seriously don't know what to do. So I used to live with my cousins in a house that her grandfather owns. And several months ago, my cousin told me that she'd be moving out and moving in with her sister. She told me that I could stay with them too, but I asked her if I could stay in this house and pay rent myself. Well, she said that she would talk to her grandfather about it. About a week or so later, she tells me that they are going to demolish the house because it is really old and it would just cost too much to make repairs and all this other stuff. So then I moved in with my then boyfriend, but I then come to find out not much longer that they offered my half-sister the house. My sister and I share the same mom, so she is not even related to my cousins. Now, I get it. My sister was living with my parents and she has an 8-year-old, but it's the fact that all of my belongings were there, as I had literally lived there before her, and I asked if I could stay and pay for it, but instead they tell me they're demolishing it, and my sister never mentioned anything about it, and now they're giving it to her. Obviously, if they were to let me stay, I would have offered my sister and niece to stay with me because there is 3 bedrooms, and she never said I could stay with her. Like, even my cousin offered me to stay with them and my own sister didn't. When I was 16, the same family offered my half-brother a house for him and his 2 kids. It's weird to me that my dad's side of the family just hands over my mom's kids literal houses just because they got pregnant or they got someone else pregnant. So I have to be far enough in life to be appreciated and helped out. Also, just to add to the why I'm not going to the Christmas get-together, my uncle had gotten all my cousins expensive things, like a headset for gaming, a turquoise necklace, and if you knew me, then you'd know that that is not anywhere near my style. I just don't want to deal with it, so I just say thanks for the gift and I'll see you next Christmas. And sure, I feel like I sound entitled or something like that, but my dad is very upset about this too. So I do feel a little justified, but I just wanted some outside views on it. So am I overreacting in this situation? Because right now I don't know what to do. I don't think you're overreacting at all because this really is a complete mess. They first tell you they're gonna demolish the house, and then without telling you, they're like, psych, we're gonna give it to your sister. It's like, what is going on right now? That is so unfair. And no, you're not entitled to the house. That's not what I'm saying. But the bare minimum expectation you could have is for them to say, sorry, we're gonna give it to your sister instead of you. Because what they decided to do was honestly incredibly dishonest. Am I the jerk for backing out of all social events simply because one person's gonna be there that I don't like? Because right now my friends are saying I'm being really childish, and at this point I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, for starters, this is a throwaway account for privacy reasons. I need a truly impartial judgment because everyone I've asked has some skin in the game and is mixed on this view. For context, I don't like this girl who we will call Ellie. I also work with her at one of my 2 jobs, and this will be important later on. I think she's annoying, way too performative, and I've also caught her telling random lies to our coworkers. I don't like being around her and only interact with her at work if I have to. Me and my group of friends were out at a bar a few months ago, and Ellie coincidentally was there as well. She walked over to me to say hi and is now part of my friendship group. All of my friends know how I feel about her, have heard her crazy behavior at work, and why I don't like to be around her. However, the majority of them like her and she has been embraced. Ellie is a part of our group chat. Most of the time when we make plans, she comes as well. I brushed it off the first couple of times, but now I've decided not to go to anything where she's also coming. Because I work 2 jobs and only have 1 day off a fortnight, it really varies depending on the shift patterns. I really value that time and decided I don't want to waste it being around someone that I don't like. I've never tried to play the hand of me being in the group first or issuing an ultimatum to pick one of us. So I just decline and I sit at home. As a result, I see my friends about once a month instead of a few times a week. And that's because I don't want to see Ellie for 8 hours where I can't stand her and then proceed to be in her presence for the rest of my evening. Everyone in my friend group has picked up on it and constantly invite me to plans where Ellie is also attending, but I just keep my stance firm and I still decline. My 2 friends who I like the most, who we will call Grace and Jess, are calling me childish and say I'm forcing them to choose between us, but I insist that I'm not, and I'm happy just staying at home. They keep calling me to change my mind, even creating a separate chat to talk about it, but I don't budge, and they think I'm being a jerk about it, and I should just be the bigger person and go anyways. So am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? Okay, personally, I think your friends are being very rude right now because you literally are being the bigger person. You're not telling them to not be friends with her, and you're literally avoiding her because you don't like this lady. You're not giving them an ultimatum or doing anything to be like, wow, it's either her or me. Like, none of that's happening because you're just staying out of it. And I don't blame you. It sounds like Ellie's really obnoxious and you just don't like her. And I know if I had someone like that invading my friend group, I'd be pissed off as well. So no, you're not the jerk for making this stance, because in my opinion, this sounds like Ellie is ruining your friend group. Tonight, we dealt with the worst table we've ever had at this restaurant, as they caused massive problems for me and my coworkers to such a degree that I honestly hope I never have to deal with them ever again. Here's what happened. You just know when you first meet a table how the rest of the night's going to go. And thankfully, I was hosting last night, but I feel so bad for my coworker who had to take this table. It was a 12 top who came in at like 9 o'clock when our kitchen closes at 10:40, which is fine by the way, but it meant that it is likely this server's last table and it will keep her there for the rest of the night. Before they even greeted me, one of the moms loudly exclaimed, "Man, it's absolutely dead in here." And she was so loud that the cooks could hear her. While I was seating them, one of the kids started saying, "I want this and I want that." I said to him, "Okay, but I'm not your waitress." And another kid then jumps in and says, "I want pasta, but with bone and wings on top instead of tenders." And again, it's like, I'm not your waitress. And bone and wings are a standalone dish, not a topping sub, but whatever. They eventually sat over 2 large tables. They put all the kids, like 8 of them, at one table and had the 4 adults at the other. So there's a table of 8 kids without an adult, and I'm sure you can imagine how that was. But not all of them were even there when they first sat down, and they told the server to divide their checks into like 4, including the members who weren't there yet. They would say stuff like, he's with me and his mama who's not even here yet, and she's with these other 2 coming later, and then these 2 are together. And they did this over and over again. I then went back to my book and I let their server attempt her absolute best work. And at one point she asked them, can I get anyone anything else? And one of the kids literally screams out, I want a refill, a refill! And of course there was no correction from the parent. One of the adults had music playing on her phone on full volume the entire time. The kids who were at a table together were wrestling, they were climbing over the booth, and all this other destructive garbage. And again, no parents got involved at all. When they got their check, one of the moms yelled at the waitress, I am not paying $40 for broccoli chicken Alfredo with extra chicken. With extra Alfredo sauce and broccoli? Are you kidding me? And by the way, she ordered all of that, as if restaurants let you add unlimited mods to food for free. I then went to check the bathroom, and they had somehow pulled every single paper towel out of the women's restroom, which I had just refilled earlier that day. And it's like, what is going on? Are you really stealing paper towels from a restaurant? The manager finally kicked them out and made them pay their bill on the spot for the state of the bathroom and also not controlling their kids. To top it all off, they literally tipped nothing, even though they had a bill of over $200. And I'm honestly just hoping they get banned for life here, because I really don't want to deal with them ever again. Oh wow, these people suck big time. You mean to tell me they came in literally at the end of the day and decided to act like this? Like seriously, this is so unacceptable, especially with the way they just let their kids run free and like literally do nothing to correct them. That is so frustrating for a server. It really is just not fair, because then you have to somehow navigate dealing with these stupid brats while also not offending any of the adults in the room when you tell those kids to knock it off. So yeah, those people really suck, and their attitude was completely unnecessary. An entitled Karen demands to know why I'm banning her kids from the water park, stating that they did nothing wrong despite the fact that they were literally putting other people in danger. So after I told her that her kids were banned from my park, she decided to start screaming in my face, claiming that they did nothing wrong, forcing me to put this Karen in her place in a way that she will never forget. Here's what happened. To start things out, I'm a lifeguard at a water park, and I deal with Karens a lot. But recently, I was actually promoted to head guard, which is basically a manager position, and now I'm dealing with a whole new ballpark. And this situation is something that happened today. I worked a 14.5-hour shift, so I saw a lot, but nothing pissed me off more than this. I started the day with the basic head guard stuff, starting the water up, writing down the guard rotation, etc. We open at 9 o'clock like we usually do, and it was good until about 10 o'clock, specifically 10:12 in the morning. A family came in consisting of a mom, a dad, a young daughter, and 3 teenage boys, all about 17 to 18 years old. Well, immediately the boys were trouble from my guards. I got at least 10 complaints about them, but they were all staggered out. They were going from one half to a different half every time they'd get in trouble because there's no communication between halves. Regardless, it reached its tipping point at about 4 o'clock, just into the second shift. I also need to add that I am infamous among the staff for the way I deal with Karens, entitled kids, and rude people, meaning that I have zero tolerance. Now, I heard a long, loud double whistle while checking the cameras in the first aid room, and that means one of 3 things: either accident, injury, or attention. I headed over to see a fuming mother screaming at one of my guards, in fact, one of my friends from when I was a normal guard, so I was immediately on edge with this one. I came up and I asked her, can I help you with something? And that's when this entitled Karen starts mouthing off at me. She says to me, yes, this jerk right over here. Only trust me, she didn't say jerk. So I interrupted her and I said, let's watch our language, please. After an exasperated sigh, the Karen continued by saying, this guard banned my son and his friends from this slide for no reason. Well, I looked over and it was them, the thorns in my side. I say out loud, oh, I see. I then look to the lifeguard and I say to them, watch your water, I can handle this. I then turn back to the entitled Karen. I say to her, ma'am, I'm gonna be honest with you. Your son and his friends aren't banned from the slide. It was then that the entitled Karen tried to jump in and say something, but I raised my hand and continued. I said to them, they're banned from the park. And when I said that, she absolutely exploded. She questioned why this was happening and why that was happening, calling me a jerk and all this other stuff, and basically giving me the works. Eventually, she calmed down and said to me, why? They haven't done anything wrong. But I responded by saying, actually, they've broken nearly every rule we have and have been causing problems literally all day. This entitled Karen then says, well, what have they really done? What could they have possibly done? But I interrupted her by saying, well, they've endangered themselves, other people, and my lifeguards with their reckless behavior. Now, this Karen started getting frankly enraged. She said to me, and how have they been endangering people? And at this point, I started to get worked up too. I said to her, they've gone down every slide the wrong way, jumped out halfway down, they've nearly hit people while playing dodgeball with the basketballs, which is against the rules anyway, and I have guards posted at the bottom of every slide. Them coming out incorrectly endangers my guards. They easily could have given themselves and nearly everyone around them concussions or worse, broken bones. They need to leave. The entitled Karen then says to me, well, we paid for a room for 2 nights. But I responded, feeling increasingly angry, that this isn't my problem. I said to her, you, your husband, and your daughter can all stay and enjoy the park. Your boys, however, have to leave. They can either be taken home by one of you, or they can stay in their room for the rest of the night. Now, this entitled Karen was flabbergasted and tried to regain some kind of control. But before she could even get started, I shut her down. I said to her, ma'am, I don't know what gave you the impression this was a debate. You are in no position to argue. You are in a position to comply. So if they don't leave in the next 10 minutes, they will be removed. She stood there for a moment in shock, then got uppity and went to the hot tub. So I decided she isn't getting the 10 minutes if she wasn't going to use them. I then took out my walkie-talkie and said, head guard to security desk, code yellow. And that's the code for guest removal. They came in, we found the kids, we took them to their parents, and then escorted them to their rooms while they were all still drying themselves off. Now, I may have been a bit of a jerk, I'm not gonna lie, but she was being combative and I had other more important things to do. Because of her, I was late for my chemical check, so I was really done with the entire situation. On top of that, she called my friend and employee an awful name, and that in my book absolutely doesn't slide. Oh man, I love the way you handled this. That Karen really thought she could get off with just being like rude and obnoxious, and she thought that she could just like get around all of the punishment she deserved by just getting in your face and screaming at you. Like, that is so stupid, and I cannot stand people who act like this. So good for you for standing your ground and putting her in her place, because this Karen absolutely deserved it. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My boyfriend has an irritating alarm problem that is quite literally ruining our relationship, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So my boyfriend and I have been together for almost 2 years. He moved into my home about 3 months ago, and I've been really struggling with his sleep behaviors. I sleep poorly most of the time, I am a light sleeper, and I need a carefully concocted layout of pillows to be comfortable. I can set one alarm to wake me up and get up straight away. I work a 3-week rolling shift, working different days each week, including a full weekend every 3 weeks. It's mostly 9 to 5 working from home, but 2 days per week I work 10 to 11-hour days away from home. A normal night's sleep for me is about 5 hours, and a really good night is about 7 to 8 hours. And sometimes a really bad night's sleep can be anything as low as an hour to even 90 minutes. In contrast, my partner works Monday through Friday 8 to 4, and he has every weekend off. He works just 5 minutes from home and can leave for work at 7:50 in the morning. But the alarms he has set up, well, for the love of God, they drive me insane. He sets alarms to get up and shower before work. It's one at 6:20 in the morning, and then another at 6:30 in the morning, 6:40, 6:50, and then 7. He then sometimes decides not to shower that morning and will set an alarm at 7:30 in the morning and go straight back to sleep. The problem is that his 6:20 alarm goes off and that wakes me up. So then I'll sit and listen to every alarm going off for the next 40 minutes, and it seriously is so demoralizing. Meanwhile, the weekends are then the other side of this. He simply will not get up. If I do not drag him out of bed, he will stay asleep until about 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and he gets frustrated that he's not up sooner, but then seems to make very little effort to change it. So right now I have so many problems. For starters, my sleep is suffering in the week. I'm not getting enough sleep for work, and I'm regularly sleeping on the couch so that I don't have to deal with his alarms, even though he has them so loud and leaves them running for ages, so I hear them anyways, and I end up having to walk upstairs to tell him to turn them off. He knows his alarms disturb me, and we've talked about it before, but nothing seems to change. I also have to wake him up in stages at the weekend. I start with a gentle nudge, and then make sure he's sat up, and then make sure he's on his phone, and then encourage him with a brew or breakfast. I've told him it's like dealing with a toddler. He was embarrassed by this and agreed that it's not acceptable, and yet here we still are. I've expressed that I feel he doesn't respect my need for sleep either, and he just keeps apologizing. Essentially, he gets a lot of sleep, and I get very little, and it's coming between us as I'm starting to resent him for it. What should I do? Okay, first of all, setting multiple alarms like that is super selfish, especially when you're sharing a bed with somebody. This guy is literally in his late 20s, by the way. There's no reason he can't wake himself up and not have his girlfriend be disturbed in the process. So this truly falls on his shoulders and not the other way around. He sounds incredibly lazy and entitled, and he has basically made you his mom instead of his partner. So hopefully your boyfriend can see exactly the way he's acting and treat you with some semblance of respect, because this behavior, in my opinion, is entirely unacceptable. My boyfriend wants me to quit my job and rely on him to go travel the world together, as his job allows him to work anywhere. But right now, I don't know if I'm being naive or if I'm making a good decision, because at this point, I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so I'm an airline's cabin crew and I live in Dubai. I have a great life here, but the job isn't as glamorous as you'd imagine. However, I am still quite content. I've been with my boyfriend for a year now, and he is keen for me to quit and go travel the world with him, since what he does for work, he can do anywhere. He wants to experience as many places as possible. He stayed here through the summer last year for me, which, if anyone knows, Dubai is actually a nightmare because of the heat, and has said that he won't do it next year. The whole thought of relying on someone honestly scares me, and he has said he will give me a year's salary as sort of insurance for me because he knows I'm apprehensive. His job isn't exactly the most legit job ever, so there is some risk involved. Despite his job, my family really like him, but they are also worried for me. I'm really stuck between the idea of living my life to the fullest as much as I can, or doing the sensible, not as fun thing and stay here alone. What should I do? Oh boy, this is unbelievably scary because there is no way I would take that guy up on his offer. First of all, this guy gave you a subtle ultimatum where he said you either move away with him and travel the world, or else he's basically gonna break up with you next year. Sure, he could do his job anywhere, but he stuck around for you apparently. And that for me is incredibly weird. Who in their right mind would be like, hey, quit your job, let's travel the world. Don't worry, I'll take care of you. Like, what is going on right now? I would never hand my life over to someone else like that. You better make sure that guy is the one and you really do want to spend time with him like that. Otherwise, you would quite literally be stuck with this guy. Everything you do would be reliant on him, and seriously, that just doesn't sound fun. Because what's the plan if this guy turns out to be a massive jerk and you have no way of getting back home? Like, that in and of itself just does not sound like a good time, and that is definitely not something I would ever agree to. So no, in my opinion, I think it would be a terrible idea to do that because the risk is absolutely way too high. Am I the jerk for leaving my mom's place after seeing how absolutely messy and disgusting it was? Because right now I'm feeling guilty for not talking to her about it, and at this point I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So growing up, our house was always messy, as my mom has a hoarding problem. There were always cardboard boxes in the living room, junk absolutely everywhere, and there were always dishes in the sink. Over time, as I grew up, I realized that this isn't normal, especially as I inherited these habits, which led to roommate conflict with me being messy when I went to college, and these are habits that I'm actively trying to correct. That being said, my mom just moved from a 3-bedroom down to a 1-bedroom apartment, and this is because my sister and I have moved to college, and I was thinking that this would be a great idea, a chance for her to start fresh. I wasn't going to fly home for Thanksgiving originally, but she told me that she needed help moving, so I came. And trust me when I say this, that week was a nightmare. My room had become a storage unit for the past few years since I left, and it was filled to the brim with random boxes of junk. The garbage was even worse, as we had to rent a U-Haul and drive it to the dumpster 4 times just to throw away boxes of paper from 20 years ago, not to mention the broken furniture and the random junk. It was a constant fight of me convincing her she doesn't need all of this, and we have to throw some of it away. We ended up running out of time to finish it, all before I had to leave, but we made enough progress that I figured she would be alright. We got everything she was going to keep already in the new place. We also set up the furniture, but left a few boxes left that she needed to unpack. The main thing left to do was to clean out the old garage and throw all of that into the dump. Now, she promised that when I got back, the apartment is going to look great, as we spent so much time talking about where furniture would be, as well as decorating the walls and all of that. Well, fast forward and I come home for Christmas, and she picks me up from the airport with my bag, and I finally get home. And oh my god, it was a nightmare. It was just like the old house. It was filled with crap from the garbage to the brim. There are pathways that go from the door to each room, and everything else is filled with stuff. The kitchen is nasty, it smells like dog urine, and I honestly can't handle it. So I walked out immediately without saying anything. I had a drink at a bar down the street, and then I called my girlfriend, and I went back just to grab my bag after she fell asleep, and then I drove to my dad's house to stay there. I haven't spoken to her since then, and I'm not sure when I'm planning on doing it either. My whole childhood, I rarely had friends over. We also rarely held family events. Living in that mess really messed with my mental state more than I realized at the time, and because of this, I tend to be messier than average, but I am doing everything possible in my power to not be like her. Whenever I visit home for the past few years, years since I moved away, I never spent the night there because of this. So seriously, am I the jerk for leaving without saying anything? Because right now I don't know what to do. Oh man, there's no way you're the jerk because this is unacceptable. Your mom clearly has a problem that she cannot solve on her own. And the fact that she destroyed that house literally within just a few months of actually getting it, like that is not okay, and there's no way I would ever want to sleep in that environment. So no, I don't blame you for leaving without saying anything, because I'm pretty sure your mom already knows that what she's doing is absolutely gross. And I know if I was in your shoes, I would have done the exact same thing. Today, I messed up by practically ruining my relationship with my family, and I'm honestly at a point where I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. To start things out, I'm 17 years old, and I can't stop making problems that I feel are ruining my family. Today, I got into a second car accident, and after having even more of my stupid decisions thrown in my face, I'm starting to realize just how much of a nuisance I am. My family has had issues almost my entire life. My parents never really got along, and they were pretty young when they got together, especially my dad. Throughout my childhood, I was blissfully ignorant to the many various issues my parents had. They separated about a decade ago, and they still are not on good terms. I stayed with my mom after they separated, and I would see my dad every weekend. And it truly stayed like that for years. I thought I adapted to the whole thing well, but that was probably because I don't know what to do now. My parents' separation was extremely messy, and I'm still finding out more to this day. The biggest issues were that my mom was extremely spiteful, and for years tried all kinds of stuff to get my dad locked up, and my older sister even helped out a few times as well. So fast forward some years and I'm older, and I'm now finding out more about everything that went down. All kinds of schemes my mom cooked up, and the worst one was probably when her and my older sister tried to falsely accuse my dad of something really bad. And you could probably guess what that is, but I don't feel like spelling that out. It really just leaves a bad taste in my mouth. I love my family more than anything, and I guess since I only found out about all the horrible stuff kind of recently, I guess it just hasn't set in yet, since my opinion of my sister and mother hasn't really changed. And I don't know why, and maybe something is just wrong with me. I still keep in contact with my mom, and I visit my sister every once in a while. I also love my dad and my stepmother a lot too. I end up having to lie to everyone too, since they all want to tell me things and then tell me not to tell anybody else. But I'm a horrible liar. I lie and then I watch as they see through it, and I'm left feeling like an awful son or brother. Now, with a car accident, I'm realizing how much of a problem I am. I've done nothing but do some chores around the house for them and give them some money for my car insurance and to help out with the bills, but it isn't much. I've done barely anything, yet they support me, and I'm causing them problems. I'm costing them money and time that they can't get back. I made the stupidest choices, and for some reason, I didn't let them know right away. All I can really do now is hope that the guy was as nice as he seemed and let my dad handle it while I sit here writing this crap out and just feel pathetic. This year has been absolute garbage, and everything is falling apart, and I don't know what to do anymore. Who knows, maybe I'm just exaggerating my issues and feeling like garbage over nothing, but I feel like I'm causing more problems than I'm worth these days. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Okay, first of all, you are not a problem in your family, and honestly, I think you're being way too hard on yourself. You've not ruined your relationship with your family. If anything, they're putting you in awful situations, and it seems like you're on the outside looking in on them doing horrible things, namely your mom and your sister. Like, I don't know what they tried to falsely accuse your father of, but my God, that is not a normal thing that anybody should do. Like, that's not even outside the norm of any kind of family dynamic, even if your parents are separated. What they tried to do was vindictive and malicious. They tried to ruin your dad's life over something that didn't happen. Like, that's horrible, and I'm so sorry you're dealing with that. Now, when it comes to you saying that you're worthless and you feel pathetic and you feel like you're causing problems, seriously, you haven't done anything wrong. Sure, you feel like a failure because you got in a car accident, but I guarantee you that's not the end of the world. You have insurance for a reason. Like, this is totally gonna be fine. Because at the end of the day, these people have made you their personal therapist as a teenager, which you don't deserve in the slightest. And just because you can't lie very well doesn't make you a bad person. If anything, it means that maybe these people need to find someone else to confide in instead of their younger son or brother. So please, don't be so hard on yourself. You're doing just fine, and I'm really optimistic that things will get better sooner than later, because it sounds like your mom and sister are really causing problems in your life, and you do not deserve that in the slightest. Today, I messed up by trying to prank my roommate, and as a result, accidentally traumatizing the entire apartment complex, because now I feel like an idiot and I really don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so this happened last night, and I think I might need to move out of the country. My roommate, let's call him Dan, is the king of pranks. He's been pulling stuff on me for months, replacing my shampoo with mayonnaise, hiding fake spiders in my bedroom. I mean, you name it, and he he's probably done it. Well, I finally decided it was time to get some revenge. The plan was simple. I would sneak into Dan's room after he went to bed, set up my Bluetooth speaker under his bed, and play a terrifying scream sound at full volume at around 3 o'clock in the morning. He is a heavy sleeper, so I figured it would scare the crap out of him. At 3 in the morning, I was ready and I queued up the most horrifying scream that I could find on YouTube. We're talking Exorcist-level demonic screech. Well, here's the thing when I hit the play button. I didn't anticipate it, but I accidentally connected the wrong Bluetooth speaker, and that wrong speaker was connected to the apartment complex shared lounge system, and the volume was set to max. So instead of scaring Dan, I ended up broadcasting demonic screams to the entire building in the middle of the night. People freaked out, and I even heard someone yelling, "We're being attacked." Doors were slamming, babies were crying, dogs were barking. I mean, it was absolute chaos. Eventually, Dan woke up and ran out of his room to find me sitting on the floor panicking, trying desperately to disconnect my phone. At this point, the building fire alarm went off because someone thought the screams meant there was some kind of fire. We all ended up outside in our pajamas at about 3:15 in the morning, and guess who was standing there looking incredibly guilty? Because if you guessed me, you would have guessed right. The building manager eventually showed up furious, demanding to know who was messing with the sound system. I tried to play dumb, but Dan, being the prank king that he is, loudly said, "Oh, I think they were just testing out their demon summoning skills." So now everyone in the building thinks I'm some kind of sleep-deprived demon lord, and I honestly now don't know what to do. Okay, first of all, this is absolutely hilarious because, my god, you not only did not prank Dan, but you somehow pranked yourself in the process. Like, first of all, I think that's a hilarious prank, and I think with the right type of person, you really can pull that off. And from the sounds of it, Dan does seem like the type of person who can take exactly what he's dishing out. So sure, on that end, you messed up by broadcasting this to the entire building, because that really is awful. Like, I can only imagine how crazy that must have been. But let's talk about the tech support for that building real quick. Who in their right mind allowed anybody to hook up to that speaker? Like, yes, what you did is a mess up, but whoever set that sound system up, they're the biggest idiot on planet Earth. Like, why in the world would that not be password protected? Why is it that anybody can connect to that without any kind of problem? Like, that's crazy to me, and there's no good excuse for that. So sure, you did mess up by having the entire apartment complex turn against you, but also I think this is absolutely someone else's problem, because you should not have been able to connect to that speaker in the first place. My entitled psycho manager tried to frame one of my coworkers for stealing from the store, as he was making fake returns to our store just to cash out as much money as he possibly could. But thankfully, I helped turn the tables by clearing my coworker's name, resulting in this manager not only getting in trouble with management, but also getting arrested by the police. Here's what happened. Way back in the year 2000, I was this adorable, naive 19-year-old working retail at a picture framing place. The management of our little shop consisted of our manager Jenny, the assistant manager Nick, and me, the third key. And for those who don't know, a third key is literally that, a third person with the keys. I had the ability to open and close the store and act as manager on duty, but if Jenny or Nick was there, then I was just a regular employee. And also for reference, names have been changed to protect the not so innocent. Jenny was an amazing manager. She was middle-aged but really cool. She had had a lot of fun in the 70s and wasn't shy about telling us her hilarious stories. She was also kind of like the shop mom. She made cookies and was always very in tune with people's emotions. She always knew the right thing to say to make me feel better, and she was a fountain of real-world wisdom. Everybody loved her. She was also an artist, and her work was starting to pick up steam. That, combined with the onset of some health issues, made her decide that retail work just wasn't for her anymore. We were all really sad, but definitely understood. Now, Nick was just a college kid and definitely didn't want or really qualify to be promoted to manager, so corporate brought in a manager in training to work as a fourth member of the management. For the sake of the story, let's call him Steve. Steve was weird. He was a huge white guy that dressed in clothes that looked like they come right out of Bill Cosby's wardrobe, loud sweaters in Arizona heat. I was basically a golden retriever puppy and tried to chat with him while teaching him the ropes when it was my turn to have him shadow me, but he just wouldn't engage. And it's not only that, but he would stare at me while I worked, just sit in the office chair and stare. I tried to chalk it up with him just being awkward, but it was creepy. Even when I was trying to teach him something, he would barely interact. When he did talk, it was usually about how amazing he was at his last job and how low the pay was for managers in our company. And it's like, yeah, no kidding, it's retail. Okay, so on to the meat of my story. Remember when I said that Jenny was having issues with her health? She called me one Saturday afternoon when I was off and asked if I'd come in and fill for her. And of course I did. I ran down to the shop to relieve her. She was having a really bad day and I was happy to close for her. I also worked the next day on Sunday and the day after that on Monday. Tuesday. That Monday, our district manager came in while I was manager on duty, and it was there that we started chatting. Like I said, I was basically a chatterbox, so this wasn't unusual. He asked me how Steve was doing, and I tried to diplomatically tell the guy that Steve was a dud, using the example that on Saturday when I relieved Jenny, he had just sat in the office or wandered the floor the whole night. The district manager seemed a little startled, but not about the guy's behavior, but the fact that Jenny hadn't been in the store after 3:00 p.m. After being in our store for about 6 weeks, Steve started swapping out with another store in the neighboring city and acting as manager on duty by himself. And Steve was thrilled because he actually lived in this other city, and the rest of us just assumed that this was part of his training, but my God, were we completely wrong. It turns out there'd been a whole lot of shrink happening at our store, a huge uptick in people paying with a credit card and then coming back later and getting a cash refund. Back then, if you did a return on a credit card or a debit card, it took a few days for the money to show back up on your bank account. If people got mean about it, we could do a cash refund, but it had to be approved by a member of the management by signing in with a register code and using their key. Well, we come to find out that thousands of dollars worth of returns were being done in cash multiple times a day, whereas before we would have maybe 1 or 2 a week. And what's even worse is that it appeared that Jenny was the one doing all these returns. They seemed to think that Jenny was taking all she could get before she retired. That is, until I told the district manager about filling in for Jenny. Apparently, a very large credit card transaction, namely $750, had been returned that night at around 7:00 p.m., and Jenny's code was the one used. When I said that she wasn't even there, in my own naive way, I kinda saved her. It turns out that Jenny had just given Steve her register code to train him because it took a few days for him to get his own, all because of some computer glitch at corporate. After my offhand remark, they took a closer look at our old schedule on paper, as the management team didn't clock in or out, and they realized that half these returns were happening on days when Jenny wasn't even there. So they switched Steve to the store in the other city, which had a better surveillance system, and caught him using another employee's code to try and pull the same trick, as well as just flat out pulling cash from the till. I'm not sure what the actual charges were, but from what I heard, he was very startled when he showed up to work to find the district manager, as well as 2 sheriff detectives waiting in the other store's office for him. I mean, he was literally perp walked out in handcuffs, and I was so upset that they didn't do it in our store. Jenny ended up leaving shortly after. The stress was just too much for her. Nick was made temporary manager, and he and I split opening and closing duties for a couple of months, with me mostly opening and him closing the store. Then we finally got a new manager who'd been entirely trained at other stores. And sure, he was okay, but he was no Jenny. But thankfully, he was no Steve either, which in my opinion is a massive win. Wow, this guy's a massive piece of garbage. Not only was he stealing from the store, but he tried to throw Jenny under the bus. And I can completely see this happening. I'm sure Jenny was just trying to be nice and be like, look, just use my code for training, it's totally fine. And I'm sure she had some semblance of trust towards Steve by being like, oh, it's okay, he's not gonna screw me over, right? I mean, thank God for the original poster for literally like clearing Jenny's name right there on the spot, even though they didn't realize that's what they were doing. Because people like Steve make me sick. And the fact that he would try and throw someone else under the bus, literally right on the verge of them retiring, in my opinion, is one of the scummiest things he could possibly do. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for not giving my younger brother my gaming console, all because he broke his previous one, and I don't completely trust him by having mine? Here's what happened. Okay, so I have a younger brother who we will call Jack, who is notorious for being careless with his belongings. Last year, my parents got him a PlayStation 5 and he was thrilled, but unfortunately, he never took care of it properly. He would leave it on the floor, toss the controller around, and spill snacks everywhere while playing. A couple of weeks ago, he spilled soda all over the console and it stopped working. My parents told him he wouldn't get a new one because it was his responsibility to take care of it. And ever since then, he's been begging to use my Xbox Series X, but I've said no every single time. Here's the thing. I worked a summer job and I saved up to buy my Xbox. I take excellent care of it because I paid for it myself. Jack got his PlayStation as a gift, so I feel like he didn't value it the same way that I value mine. Well, now Jack is calling me selfish and unfair, and my parents are actually split on this. My dad says that I'm right because it's my console, and I shouldn't have to share it if I don't want to, but my mom thinks that I'm being too harsh on him, and that I should help him out because he's just a kid. I don't trust him to not damage my Xbox, and I think it's a good lesson for him to learn about consequences. But still, my mom and Jack keep trying to guilt trip me, and I'm now starting to wonder, am I the jerk for refusing to let him use my gaming console? Because because right now I don't know what to do. No, you're not the jerk at all because I don't blame you. He clearly does not care about the things around him because he literally destroyed his previous console by spilling soda on it. Like, first of all, how do you let that happen? But also, your parents got it right before they flip-flopped. This was his responsibility to take care of it, and he should have been more responsible with his belongings. So for him to come to you and be like, oh, please, give me your Xbox, I want to play on it. It's like, no, you're not taking it, this is mine, and I'm not going to let you destroy this as well. So no, you're not the jerk, and I honestly would try to make efforts to hide that Xbox from your brother, or even just make sure that he doesn't have access to it, because clearly he is irresponsible, and I wouldn't be surprised if he destroyed your property as well. Am I the jerk for not going on family vacation 2 months after giving birth? Because right now, my family's making me feel horrible for backing out, and at this point, I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, to start things out, in May, my husband's parents planned a huge family beach vacation for his grandparents' 50th wedding anniversary for next summer, and we had 100% planned on going. However, we found out in September that we are expecting a baby, and the due date is about 2 months before the trip. So I told my in-laws that we will not be able to go on the trip, as I don't want to travel with a 2-month-old baby across the country, and that we also could not afford to take an extra week off of work because I will not have a paid maternity leave. Well, his mom is very frustrated with me because they were planning on having me and my husband drive his grandparents down with us, which as a side note, we were never told about, by the way, and according to them, a baby is completely fine to travel 700 miles after 2 months. When I bring up my concerns about not being able to afford to live, she'll say to me, well, let's just hope he's born a week or two late, which I think that's kind of crappy to hope for. My husband is completely on my side, and his siblings and cousins are mixed. Some of them are saying that we should honor our commitment to go because we said we would before we knew, while others are more understanding of our concerns. So am I the jerk in this situation? Because right now I'm incredibly frustrated. No, you're not the jerk. These people are complete idiots. Anyone who's seriously saying, wow, what's the problem here? It's only 700 miles of traveling for a 2-month-old. Like, that's insane. That really is not fair for you. Also, it sounds like they only want you to go so you can drive your grandparents. And that is like, oh wow, so you only want me to go so you can use me for transportation. So to me, it sounds like they're more upset that you're not going because they need a ride for the grandparents, as opposed to you being there because they want you there, which in my opinion is way worse. Like, that alone would have been a deal breaker, especially with them not telling you beforehand. Like, are you kidding me? You're already driving 700 miles, let alone with a 2-month-old in the car, and now they want to add 2 more people in there just for the heck of it and be like, oh yeah, you'll drive them too, right? Like, that is crazy to me, and there's no way I would ever put up with that. So I don't blame you for not going, because the way your family's acting is incredibly shady. Am I the jerk for not buying my sister a Christmas gift, all because she lost or sold my expensive gloves and refuses to replace them? Because right now I'm out about $250, and I seriously now don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So I live in a part of Canada that gets very cold. We're talking negative 40 degrees Celsius or even colder. I often work outside and I love to ski, and I will work in negative 40 degrees Celsius and ski in the cold up to negative 30 degrees Celsius. Therefore, I bought some gloves that cost $250 that are graded for negative 50 degrees Celsius a few years ago. Now, I had moved to a place for a year where I didn't need my cold gear, so I left it at my parents'. Well, my sister called to ask me if she could use these gloves to shovel the walks. I initially said no because it would take 10 minutes and it's only negative 10 degrees Celsius, but she screamed at me, so I reluctantly agreed. Well, I came home for Christmas and the gloves are missing. And keep in mind, I haven't been home since she used them. She's now moved away, and I called her up asking her where they are. She said that she put them back, but they're not there. I asked if she had any other ideas of where they might be, and it was then that she screamed at me and said no, while also telling me to F off and that she put them back. I tore apart my room and I checked every nook and cranny in the house, but to no avail, including my sister's room. And guess what? She also had a breakdown about that over the phone when I said this. Now, for context, my sister has a bad history of stealing things or selling off our things and then denying it. She has stolen much of my mom's things and many of mine, and we're talking stuff like jewelry and clothing. In fact, when I was looking in her room for my gloves, I actually found the family laptop that had gone missing that she denied taking, and about 5 articles of my clothes. When she steals, sells, or loses things of ours, she always goes straight to screaming at us. Both of my parents said they're 100% sure my sister is the reason they're gone. My dad said he thinks that she stole them because he saw the same pair on Facebook Marketplace a while back, but didn't care to check the posting name at the time because no one knew they were missing. My mom says that she saw her take them from my room, but never saw her put them back in my room when she came back inside. Anyways, I replaced the gloves with the exact same model because I'm going to a place where I'll be working outside again in literally negative 40-degree weather. And by the way, this is up to 8 hours at a time. I also want to ski over Christmas and it is very cold. I need high quality gloves because I actually would get frostbite. When my parents asked what I got my sister for Christmas, I said that I got nothing because the money for her gift went towards replacing my gloves. Even though my family 100% agrees that she either lost or stole them, they're saying that I'm being a jerk and should apologize to my sister and buy her a gift. They're not making my sister apologize for selling or losing or even stealing them, and are instead going to gradually pay me back the $250 on my sister's behalf. So am I the jerk for not getting a Christmas gift from my sister? Because right now I'm still incredibly pissed off. Oh no, this is absolutely not okay with me because this is so crazy. She stole those gloves, like straight up, nobody can tell me otherwise. She took those out of your room and she never returned them. And I bet you all the money in the world she absolutely sold those on Facebook because the clues are all lining up. Apparently these people live in a small town, so the fact that anyone on Facebook Marketplace, you know, the store that literally is localized to where you live, would somehow have this exact same pair up for sale, in my opinion, is not a coincidence. Plus, there's plenty of evidence in your sister's stupid room that yes, she's been stealing all along. So if she really wants some kind of Christmas present, then she needs to start by returning the things that she's stolen, which of course is never gonna happen. Because honestly, I can't stand people who act like the sister in this story, because lying thieves like that, in my opinion, are truly the scum of the earth. My job has slowly worn me down, as I now find myself unable to smile and laugh like I used to. So right now, I'm worried that I might be very burned out at this job, because at this point, I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so maybe this is a weird one, but I've repeatedly noticed recently that I don't really come across as sweet and gentle as I used to when I started serving at this restaurant. When I started this job, I could never pick a fight with anyone. I was constantly very friendly and enthusiastic with my tables. But nowadays, in some ways, I am still the same. The sense of humor is similar, but it's not there as much. I'm always pleasant to tables, but even a man who comes in regularly told me recently on one of my shifts that I've lost my spark. The sense of humor or general character just is not there. I've noticed recently a lot more when I go into my shifts, I feel fine, but I can't smile as much as I used to and I don't have the desire for it. I've been told on multiple occasions I look a bit miserable and I need to smile more by either my manager or my coworkers. I honestly do not know what has happened. Admittedly, I've had a lot of mental health issues this year, which are probably contributing, but I enjoy my job. It's tiring, but it's sociable and the money is okay. I've noticed it even with my approach to people. I'm a lot more direct and firm with tables than usual, and this is the same with coworkers. Once upon a time, I would have found difficulty saying no to people and would have been a pushover, but nowadays, depending on the situation, I have no problem putting my foot down about something. I used to be gentle, sweet, very funny with tables, and now, while I will always be pleasant and try to have a laugh with the tables, I just can't find the core for the usual character. I sometimes have nights I just can't make conversations with anyone, and we're talking coworkers or tables. Once upon a time, I'd have tried to make an effort with everybody, but I'm honestly worried about what's going on. So seriously, what's happening with me? Am I just burned out or what? What should I do? Okay, honestly, as someone who has worked in restaurants before, this is not uncommon. Let me tell you something, you can only do so much. You deal with a lot of people all day, every day, and you do everything that you can to give them a good experience at the restaurant. But I can seriously say I've experienced the same thing that you're going through. You work a job so much and you do your very best, but eventually you hit a breaking point. You get nothing in return and it feels like, oh man, I just can't do this as well as I used to. So sure, you might be burned out just a little bit, but that's not necessarily a bad thing, and it might just be a sign that yes, you need to mix it up a little bit. Whether that's mixing up how you're going to work or what you're doing at work, or even how you like approach thinking about the whole thing. Like, do you really need to be that guy that's constantly friendly and enthusiastic with every table, or trying to crack a joke or whatever? I understand if you're trying to do that to get like better tips or something like that, but doing that for every table, like that seems like a bit much. Because what I learned is if you can at least be somewhat neutral and cordial with your tables, then yeah, you're gonna have a good night and it's gonna be fine. You don't have to stretch yourself so much, and you can find some kind of middle ground where you can operate and do your job and still have some kind of like positive feedback from customers and coworkers. So hopefully you can take some time off and figure things out, because honestly, I think the way you're feeling is completely normal, especially when you consider that you work in the restaurant industry, which in my opinion can be one of the most volatile industries on the face of the earth. Am I the jerk for not attending my family Christmas gathering, all because I can't afford the $250 white elephant gift exchange? Because right now my family is claiming that I'm overreacting and that I'm being petty for not being able to join in on this stupid exchange. And at this point, I don't know what to do. do. Here's what happened. So my family has a tradition where we do a big Christmas get-together every single year, and the highlight is the white elephant gift exchange. It's always been a fun time, but this year my family decided to raise the price limit to $250 per gift, and I'm honestly a little shocked. I get that inflation has hit, but that's a lot of money for one gift, especially for something that's supposed to be fun and quirky, not something super expensive or meaningful. I have a pretty tight budget this year, with unexpected medical bills and just general life expenses. After paying for all my bills and essentials, there's barely enough left for me to get by. The idea of spending $250 on a gift is totally unrealistic for me, and I'm expected to show up for the family dinner and festivities. I started feeling like I was being pushed out of the tradition because of my financial situation. I told her that honestly, if I can't participate in the gift exchange, then I might not come at all. I didn't want to be the person who has to sit awkwardly and watch everyone else exchange expensive gifts when I couldn't contribute. Plus, I didn't want to feel embarrassed about not meeting their expectations. Well, my mom thinks that I'm being petty and that it's just one gift. My dad then says I'm overreacting and that it's not about the price, it's about the spirit of Christmas, which to be fair, I do agree with, but still, $250? Are you kidding me? Some of my siblings are saying I should just suck it up and join in because it's about being together, while others are telling me they agree with me, but are still going to participate since the majority of the family agreed to this. There's approximately 18 to 25 people in my family that will be there, and we are still expected to get gifts for our family members as well. I really don't want to make a big scene or cause drama, but at the same time, I feel like this is a massive financial burden that's being placed on me, and I just don't know if it's worth it to show up and feel out of place. So seriously, am I the jerk if I decide to sit this one out? Because right now I feel very ostracized and I don't know what to do. Okay, first of all, I don't think you're the jerk, because $250 for a white elephant gift exchange? Like, that is crazy to me. Like, maybe it's just me, but that seems like a really high limit for what you're gonna get for a gift. Because you said it best. This is supposed to be a fun time, right? You're supposed to give out like funny, quirky gifts and just have a good time. Because the way they're explaining this kind of makes it seem like, oh yeah, we're gonna spend hundreds of dollars on this. And it's like, sure, maybe you can do that, but I can't. And trust me, I get it. Having all these bills racking up, especially medical bills in the United States, like those expenses can be insane sometimes, and I don't blame you for being like, wait a second, I can't afford this. So when you say spending $250 on a gift exchange is totally unrealistic, trust me, I understand where you're coming from, and I don't blame you for not wanting to do this. Now, when it comes to your parents being like, oh wow, it's just one gift, you're being petty, you're overreacting right now, it's not about the price, it's about the spirit of Christmas. It's like, okay, come on, wait a second. If they really want you to be a part of this and you're explaining, hey, I can't do this, they can either be accepting and allow you to be there and not make a big deal out of it, or they can pitch in and be like, oh, okay, here's some money to buy something for the gift exchange. Like, that would be reasonable. There's no reason they wouldn't be able to do that, especially if they're gonna jack up the price that much. Like, if I'm doing a white elephant gift exchange, I'm gonna max out at $50 if that. So no, you're not the jerk for not wanting to attend the family Christmas get-together, because what they're asking of you, especially in your time of need, in my opinion, is a little bit absurd. An entitled Karen attacked me in the parking lot and steal what they thought was a brand new PlayStation 5 out of my trunk. But unfortunately for them, in a weird twist of fate, what they stole was filled to the brim with coal, as I had every intention of giving that as a gag gift. And I've honestly never felt better about getting back at somebody in my life. Here's what happened. So to give context, every year me and my wife do a Secret Santa where we find a family in need or going through a tough financial situation during the holidays, and we spread some holiday joy by buying the whole family Christmas gifts and surprising them with the gifts on Christmas Day. This year was a family that included a young boy that was a straight A student that really wanted a PlayStation 5, which I was going to surprise him with on Christmas Day. Another thing to note is that when I was gathering information on the family, I found out that they had a holiday tradition of doing gag gifts and pranks for Christmas, which was something I definitely was going to get in on. So my plan was simple. In addition to the PlayStation 5, I was going to find a separate PlayStation 5 box and make that the gag gift by filling it with a bunch of charcoal and putting a note on it that said "Psych" with a troll face on the note. After weeks of asking around, I found a buddy who had an empty PlayStation 5 box and was willing to give it to me. So I graciously accepted it and filled the box up with the charcoal bag and the note and put some extra filling in there to keep the charcoal from moving around. And now all that was left was to try and secure the real PlayStation 5. Now on to the meat of the story. I found a local game shop that had one PlayStation 5 left in stock, and I quickly went to go buy it. On my way out, I nearly collided with a rude, shrill lady with her husband who nearly hit me with the door as they opened opened it and pushed past me without even so much as an excuse me. I mean, these people were really rude, but I decided to brush it off. I went to my car and I placed the new PlayStation 5 behind the driver's seat in my car. But before I left, I wanted to grab a Gatorade that I kept in a cooler inside the trunk. As I was grabbing it, I saw the lady from earlier with her husband in tow approaching me with a very brisk pace out of the corner of my eye. This entitled Karen said to me, "Hey, excuse me, sir." Now me, cautiously turning head to face her and her husband, I say to her, can I help you? The husband says to us, "Are you the guy that bought the last PlayStation 5? Now me, silently cursing myself, I say to them, "Yes, that would be me." This entitled Karen looked at me and actually said, "Well, I need you to give me that PlayStation 5. We really need it." I responded by saying, "I'm sorry, but the PS5 is a charity gift for a Secret Santa that I'm doing." This Karen responded by saying, "Well, how about you be a Secret Santa to our kids and give us the system?" I responded by saying, "Ma'am, I'm sorry, but I can't do that." But her husband said, "Dude, you can easily find another one at another store or a pawn shop nearby." But after a second, I say to them, "So why don't you guys just do that?" It was then that this entitled Karen freaked out on me. She started screaming, "Our time is important. We can't waste it running around town to find another one." I responded by saying, "I'm sorry, but a lack of preparation on your part is not my problem." But before I could even finish, this entitled Karen cut me off. She said to me, "Oh, don't give me that BS." The husband then said to me, "Okay, listen, I have $200 in my pocket, and that is yours if you just give me the PS5. I then told him that it cost me $400, and this Karen looked at me and said, "For the love of God, just take the money." Now, before I could even finish by saying, "Sorry, that's not gonna happen," the husband gave me a very unexpected shove. Mind you, I'm a bigger guy, but this caught me way off guard. The shove knocked me to the pavement and knocked my glasses off my face. In the process of falling, I heard the husband say, "Grab the box," and I vaguely saw them reach into the trunk of my car and take the PS5 box. I scrambled to find my glasses and I put them back on to see the pair of them in full sprint across the parking lot towards their car. Well, I took off after them, but they managed to reach their car and get inside before I could catch up to them, and they sped off. I felt a mix of anger and shock at the gall of the couple to do what they did. A bystander came up to me to see if I was okay from the shove and offered to call the police. I was so upset that I wanted to call the cops myself and see if they could convince the store to look over any surveillance to see if they could get a plate number or something like that. Well, I opened my car door to get my phone when I saw nestled in my back seat the PlayStation 5 that I just bought with the receipt still in the bag. In my confusion, I opened the box for a sanity check just to see a brand new PlayStation 5 still in its wrapping. I sat there for a minute, dumbfounded to the whole situation. I clearly saw the couple make off with a PlayStation 5 box, but yet the one I just purchased is right in front of me. But then it hit me. The PS5 they took was the gag gift. When I realized this, I almost died laughing, much to the confusion of the bystander who checked on me. I explained the situation to him, and he laughed as well. He asked if I still wanted to call the police, to which I ultimately decided not to. It was a gag gift after all, and I saw no need to try and get it back. The whole ordeal led to another disappointment as I drove away. The fact that I won't be there to see the pair's reaction when their kid opens the dummy box to find a bag of charcoal and a troll face. And even better, they can't return anything because they stole it. And sure, I miss out on giving out a gag gift, but I will get to see the joy of giving Christmas cheer to a less fortunate kid. Oh wow, I can't believe someone actually did that to you. First off, I absolutely would have called the police in that story because seriously, there's no way I'm gonna let that slide. And sure, you got off kind of lucky with them stealing the gag gift, which by the way, I think that's hilarious. But for them to push you like that onto the ground, like that absolutely needs to be punished. But all in all, good for you for somehow finding a way out of this, because this situation could have been way worse. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Today, I found out that my dad has been hiding another family, including a wife and a 10-year-old half-sister that I've never even known about. And I now feel completely devastated and I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. I'm a 25-year-old female, and I just found out that my dad has been hiding a family for the last 14 years. My parents got divorced when I was 9 years old. He moved overseas for work about a year before the divorce, and I didn't find out they were divorced until 3 years later when my mom heard my dad was spotted with a wedding ring on, which apparently was the time he got married, but he never said anything, and I was young and wasn't great at broaching those topics with him. He would visit me every year for my birthday and stay a couple of weeks to a month and called at least weekly. He was there for important life events like my grandfather's funeral, my graduations when I was hospitalized, and even came to buy me a car when I was 16 years old. We went on family vacations together over the years, and when I was in college, I met up with him for a week alone in Italy. Now, my mother still loved him all these years and never dated or remarried, and she thought that cultural and family pressures caused him to think that he needed to earn more and more overseas for that. 3 weeks ago, I went on a trip to Asia, and I stopped to visit my father on a few-hour layover midway. We had a wonderful time as we have a pretty good relationship now, and then I went about my trip. I then told him that I would come visit him there again soon. Well, the day after I got back, he surprise visited the US and dropped the bomb on me. And this was all awful timing with Christmas, work, and jet lag. Now, I was surprised because my dad had seemingly lived alone for many years. And that's because apparently he didn't move in with the wife until 7 years into their marriage. He said it was because he was trying to come back to the United States for a job that was closer to me and didn't want to uproot her life. Now, my half-sister knows about me, but I had no clue that she even existed. And he said he kept it from me because it never seemed like the right time to tell me, and he didn't want to mess me up. But I honestly feel so betrayed by the situation. My father didn't abandon me, but with the exception of a couple of weeks out of the year, he was an absent father. I thought it was because he wanted to chase a big career in opulent cities and have fun as a bachelor. But now, knowing that he was instead a family man all this time is completely crushing. The secret is hard for me too, as it was manipulative to keep something that important away from me, and all of his side of the family knew about this. So now I don't really know how to feel. We have met up a couple of times and I've asked questions, but I still can't believe he hid a second life from me. So truly, any perspective is very appreciated, because right now I'm not sure how I want to move forward. Oh my god, your dad is an awful person for doing this to you. I think that needs to be said out loud because this is so toxic. He literally hid a family from you your entire life. I mean, you didn't even know you had a half-sister who's 10 years old, by the way, until literally just recently. Like, that is so weird. Why would he not tell you about that? And worst of all, everybody on your father's side of the family lied to you basically your entire life. They kept this truth from you for literally no reason other than guilt. So truly, I really don't blame you for being upset, but also I'm so sorry that this happened to you, because you do not deserve this in the slightest. My idiotic manager keeps changing our schedules to the point where it is literally ruining all of our lives. And at this point, we really don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so I do like my job, but my god, one manager is ruining everything with her scheduling. And this is completely her problem. None of us agree with what she's doing, and even though other managers and staff alike have tried to resolve the issue with her, she still will not budge. She's not even the most senior or powerful person, but she is queen of her castle, if that makes any kind of sense. She's not targeting anyone in particular, but she is hurting everyone. She's just sort of destroying all of us with a death by 10,000 cuts. There's no stopping her, there's no resolution. We all just have to accept it and hope whatever is possessing her, whether it's stress at home or general existential dread, honestly just works itself out. And you know what? We've tried, collectively and apart. There's always some reason or justification, and she will change the schedule in the middle of the night, making it too late for people to organize and type a comeback. We've come together collectively as a staff, and the issue is she genuinely thinks she's making the right calls. I mean, she's a fanatic. In some, she keeps adjusting hours across all shifts, despite them being well established and running with no issues or complaints. She guilt-tripped a staff member with a dying husband to try and come in because she was so desperate, even though she wasn't, because in reality, she just panics over every little hiccup. She's even going as far as adding staff to dead shifts. So I just want to remind myself that I still make good money, even if it's been cut in half, and I love most of my coworkers and customers. Work is getting a little harder to deal with, but I'm sure it will pass. Eventually, something will give, but this really is the first time I've considered even looking for a new job in several years. Oh my god, what in the world is happening? Why is this lady allowed to schedule people like that? If someone scheduled me for a shift in the middle of the night and then tried to complain to me all because I didn't know about the shift, I would lose my mind and find another job, or I would document it and go above her head if I can. Like, if this is a chain restaurant, I'm going straight to corporate. I'm gonna be like, wait a second, this lady is ruining all of our lives. Because seriously, you should not have to deal with this. The least you can expect from your manager is some kind of like cohesive schedule. And it doesn't sound like there needs to be all this reorganizing in the first place. Just like any other job, people pretty much know what they want and they'll work the hours that they like. So for her to switch things around and be like, oh, we're gonna change things in the middle of the night and nobody could do anything about it. Like, for me, that's the fast track to me literally quitting on the spot and bringing with me as many coworkers as possible, because this is behavior that you absolutely should not be putting up with. My coworker went on sick leave for 4 weeks after I refused to do a task that she assigned to me, and now I feel really guilty and I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So this situation has been bothering me for a while, and I need an outside perspective. I work in an office where roles and responsibilities are pretty well defined. Let's call my coworker coworker Lisa. Lisa and I get along well enough, but we've never been super close, just professional. About a month ago, Lisa asked me to handle a task that frankly was outside my job description and instead was directly part of her responsibilities. It wasn't a huge task, but it was time-consuming, and I already had a packed schedule. Plus, it seemed unfair that she was trying to offload her work onto me, especially since I don't get paid more for doing others' work, and with rising costs, I have more on my plate. I politely but firmly told her, sorry, but I just can't take this on right now. Maybe we talk to the manager about redistributing tasks if you're overwhelmed. When I said this, she just nodded and said, okay, and then walked away. Well, the next day, Lisa didn't come to work. I didn't think much of it at first, but then she called in sick for the rest of the week. Fast forward, and now it's been 4 weeks of her being on sick leave, and I heard through the office grapevine that she told Human Resources that she's dealing with stress and anxiety because of workplace tension and the rising cost of living. Now, this is where I start feeling guilty. Did my refusal to do the task trigger something for her? I genuinely didn't mean to upset her. I just didn't think it was fair to dump her work on me, but now I'm wondering if I misread the situation. Maybe she was struggling more than I realized and my response pushed her over the edge. Now, the workload is heavier for everyone because Lisa's responsibilities are being reassigned to the rest of us. Some coworkers have started making comments like, well, if someone had just helped Lisa out, maybe she wouldn't be gone for so long. And I know they're not directly blaming me, but still, it stings. So am I overreacting by feeling this way? Should I have just done the task to avoid this whole situation? Or is this something that Lisa needs to take accountability for? What should I do? Okay, I really do think you're overreacting here because this is not your fault. If Lisa was overwhelmed at work, then she should have gone to her boss and been like, hey, I'm overwhelmed. I need help getting stuff done. I can't do this on my own. What she did wrong, in my opinion, is going to you and being like, hey, can you do this for me? Like if I was in your shoes and I saw the pile of stuff that I had to do, and then someone comes in and was like, oh man, can you do my job as well? I would be like, sorry, but I don't have time for that. So personally, I think you did the right thing. You told them, hey, go to the manager if you need your jobs like reassigned, but I can't do them for you because I'm busy as it is. So no, you are not responsible for her being stressed out and having anxiety, because if she really was having this many problems, then she really should have talked to her manager. Am I the jerk for refusing to let my in-laws use my car after all of their cars break down one by one? Because right now they're demanding that I hand it over so they can live their lives. And at this point, I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so at the moment I have an okay car. It's not the car I wanted, but it gets me where I need to go. For context, I totaled my last car, which is a long story, and I was too scared to drive for a while, and my in-laws got a new car around this time. After a few months had passed, I had finally grown confident enough to try again. So I would ask my mother-in-law if I could start driving myself places. Every time I asked, she would always tell me that I can't because I wasn't on the insurance. Fast forward a few months, and my sister-in-law messed up her car somehow, and my mother-in-law was letting her drive their car. Eventually, I find out from my father-in-law that my sister-in-law isn't on the insurance either, so he doesn't know why she won't let me drive. This became a constant argument on why she's allowed to drive, but I'm not. As soon as I got my car, I decided to lay down some rules based off the situation surrounding their car. For starters, I'm not taking my sister-in-law's kids anywhere or picking them up because they leave trash in my mother-in-law's car all the time. Secondly, my car is not a backup vehicle. If something happens to their car, then they'll have to figure something out. And seriously, that's not too crazy, right? Well, fast forward a few months, and my sister-in-law messed up her car again, so now they're sharing one car. Except every time my sister-in-law takes their car, they turn around and ask me to use mine. When I would say no because of rule number 2, they would get mad and say, oh, well, we need you to help us out. But my reaction would be to say, well, I needed help too, and I had to fight all of you for months to get it. And then I would end up letting it happen anyways because my backbone just doesn't exist. At one point, my husband had to have a conversation with his dad because he thought that it would be cool to go pick up one of the kids from school when he only asked me to take my car to the store. And mind you, his dad knew that I was not okay with that. After getting my car out of the shop from an accident and spending way too much money on taking a Lyft to work every single day, my mother-in-law was stressing about how she would get to work because my father-in-law also needed to use their car to get to work. So I tell her, well, you know that Uber and Lyft is a thing, right? You didn't offer to take me to work, so I don't know what to tell you. And of course she got mad, and of course I felt like I was getting buffed down again. So eventually I just caved in. Well, yesterday my father-in-law somehow messed up their car, and now they can't drive it, meaning that my car is the only working vehicle. Despite the amount of times I've caved in, I want to stand 10 toes down on my decision to not let them use my car. And this is because I feel like they just let me struggle for years, not helping me get a car and not letting me drive. Meanwhile, I continuously watch them help out my sister-in-law sister-in-law, even though she's totaled every car she's had. Secondly, they should have gotten a second car for these situations instead of expecting me to let them use my car. And third, I feel like they don't ever expect me to say no to them. So am I really the jerk here? Because at this point, I really don't know what to do. No, you're not the jerk, and honestly, I'm kind of disappointed that you caved in so many times, because now I'm sure these people are like convinced that they can push you around and get whatever they want. And that's not fair for you at all. These people literally left you out on a limb and said, oh, we're not gonna let you use our car, you're not on the insurance. And then they turn right back around and give it to your sister-in-law and say, oh, but she can do it, she's different. So truly, I don't blame you for being like, no, you're not using my car, you never helped me out. Because this is quite literally what they did to you in your time of need. My boyfriend ordered Christmas gifts incredibly late, meaning that nothing he bought me is gonna show up on Christmas Day. And at this point, I'm incredibly upset and I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. My boyfriend and I have been together for what will be 4 years in January, and we've lived together for the past 3 years. My boyfriend is usually pretty good about gifting me things that I want, need, or even like, but is usually rushing to do so before whatever holiday it is that we're celebrating. I have never not gotten at least something on time though, and usually a few of my gifts he gets me for my birthdays or any special occasions are late, all because of his lack of planning. Yesterday though, he informed me that literally all of my gifts won't be here until after Christmas, as he waited to shop for me until mainly this weekend. He also this weekend kept asking me for additional ideas on what to get me, meaning he really hadn't put much thought into what I'd like until last minute, and I would be lying if I said I wasn't bummed out over the situation. I currently have a PlayStation 5, an extra controller, 2 games, and a charging dock under the tree for him, and I have 2 more smaller gifts coming today in the mail. I feel like I really went all out this year, and it's hurting my feelings that he couldn't even plan ahead with enough time to get me something that I can open on actual Christmas Day. He also made an odd comment about how he doesn't need to get my son a gift because apparently he already has enough gifts. My son is 5 years old, and while he does have a good amount of presents, it felt gross to hear him dismissing getting my son something. I believe he said it not necessarily out of being rude, but because he again has nothing lined up. But I still can't help but feel gross about all of it. I even took my son shopping for something for my boyfriend specifically, and I even let him pick out what to get my boyfriend, so he feels like he got him some kind of gift. I did tell my boyfriend I'm upset about my stuff being late, and he apologized repeatedly, so I just decided to drop it, especially since there's nothing really I can do about it now. I'm trying to give him grace, as he recently started a second job and has had limited time off to go shopping, but last week he made time to take a trip to the mall and purchase things for himself. Not to mention that I also worked 2 jobs and raised my 5-year-old and still made time to get things done. Money is not an issue, as we both work for the same company full-time, and we both got good Christmas bonuses. I honestly don't know what to do. I'm trying not to be materialistic about the whole thing, but I just feel like my son and I deserve gifts on time from someone who we love and loves us. He also hasn't purchased anything for quite literally anybody else in the family, and we are supposed to be going to his mother's house on Christmas Eve to celebrate. I was questioning him today on what his plans are for his mother, sister, and nieces, and he just rolled his eyes with gift cards and cash. I told him it sounds like he's just going the easy way out by handing his mom cash, but he insists that's not true and that it's what she would prefer, whereas I purchased nice gifts for all of them myself. I'm unsure how to approach it at this point, as I don't see a reason to continue to make him feel bad for it, but I'm just upset that he couldn't prioritize the people who love him this year. What should I do? Okay, honestly, there's no good excuse for the way your boyfriend's acting. I don't think I need to spell this out, but seriously, it is so easy to shop online. This guy could have taken like, what, an hour tops to shop for everybody in his family and had all of that literally at his doorstep, probably pre-packaged in like no time. It would have been so simple it's not even funny. So sure, I can understand why you would try to like explain away his behavior, but in my opinion, there's no excuse. There's no reason why you can't shop ahead of time and get stuff done like this. So truly, I'm so sorry this happened to you, because this really does make your boyfriend look incredibly bad. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist at the top of the description. And if you want some chill music to put on in the background, check out easymode.com. If you like Am I the Jerk, subscribe to Am I the Genius. Everything will be linked down below in the description.